of my podcast.
Say fuck.
Fuck!
Mom, say get the fuck out of my podcast.
Get the fuck out of my podcast.
Doesn't she say you fuck or you fucks or something like that?
On here it just says fuck.
But I think she says, do you remember?
Let me look.
I don't remember. I just watched it again.
It's
but...
such a sweet moment,
Yeah.
in my opinion, like genuinely sweet. And I just, I like it. I like that he builds in the little like bonding sort of teen grown up moment, you know,
Yes.
in this very, very tense moment. But I think she literally says like, you fuck. And you even see the robbers being like, huh? like with specific thing to say.
I imagine we're going to talk about it a lot, but it still just defies logic that this movie was not designed for and built around Jodie Foster from the beginning.
It is so true. Yes, it is. Yes, of course. You're like, yeah, of course.
Like,
yeah.
this feels like the movie that is like Jodie Foster in her 40s comes to Sony and says, I want to do a thriller, pitch me something. And they go, we'll get our top team on it.
100%. Right.
Rather
and
than
I want to
thing
do a
that
mother-daughter movie. Well, Kristen Stewart could play your daughter. Right. She
Everything
totally
about
could.
it.
Yes. And instead, it's like, no, we brought her in a week, into filming, 2 weeks into filming or whatever.
2 weeks into filming.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, everything about it is bizarre. And I do think it sort of set a template for what felt like, oh, this is Jodie Foster's next phase that then sort of died prematurely.
What about the flight plan?
Well, Flight Plan was the
we'll
one.
Talk about that.
We'll talk about all of this. We got so much to talk about. It's a normal episode. We can just chill out. We can be calm and relaxed.
No bits planned.
No bits planned. We're just here.
We have a little like screen.
Yeah.
Bits planned 0.
None. Days since bits.
The Studio 60 board with its blank.
The count. Yeah. Nothing. We're just looking at a cork board.
Guys.
Post Malone is the musical guest
guys,
next week. But
solidarity
Yeah.
with the writers. And
Yes.
I know we have a writer with
we have
us
a writer
today.
with us. A
Yes.
great writer.
And I think they should, they should hold out for the best deal they can possibly
They
get.
must.
I miss Studio 60
Oh.
every week. I miss those guys.
I miss it. Well, I'm just
what
like,
are all their names?
would they be-
I'm gonna Google now.
What would they be saying about the Russian coup? They're the only.
Boy.
They have the razor sharp wit to handle a sensitive situation.
Tom
like that.
Jeter.
Russian Cuckoo, I think would be the name of the sketch.
Russian cuckoo.
Yeah. Wow. Rob Reiner hosting again?
It'd be a game show somehow.
One of my favorite things is
Who
that
wants to rule Russia?
in Studio 60, Rob Reiner is the guest host of what episode? I'm like,
Yeah.
Rob Reiner?
Yes. Who are the guest hosts you know exist in the Studio 60 universe? Rob Reiner, Felicity Huffman.
Okay.
Sting plays the lute.
Right.
He does play the lute.
But is he
But even
host
that, right? They're like,
and
hey,
musical
Sting, come and
guest?
do some music.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, lute music. And they're
Yeah.
like, of course. This is Studio 60. It's classy as fuck.
There's that weird exchange where Christine Lottie is the embedded journalist.
Yes, she's the
Vanity Fair.
She's like Maureen Dowd or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
she's talking to Sarah Paulson, I think.
Sure.
Or Amanda
The crazy
Peet.
Christian.
They're watching him just do an impromptu sitar set.
Yeah, he's doing
Yeah.
some lute.
Right.
He's laying down a lute bed.
Right. And Christine Lottie, I think, says, I love watching him work his instrument. And the other character goes, which one?
Ooh.
I'm like, what do you mean? You haven't watched him work his dick?
Maybe she has.
What are you talking about?
Hollywood's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I have so many. We could go in so many directions here.
We're setting up threads. We're
a
setting up threads.
subplot
Perfectly planned.
in the
Yeah.
television show Studio
Sure.
60 on the Sunset Strip.
Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip,
Is that
the fictional series about the making of the very,
very real
real
show.
sketch show that exists in our universe. No bits.
Amanda Peet's character Jordan McDeere is the
Yes.
new head of program.
Of course.
And her big thing is that she wants to have a show about the UN.
Yes.
She's like, I have a hit idea for a big drama. It's about the UN.
Right.
And fucking
She's pitching fake West Wing, basically.
right. And fucking Steven Weber,
Yeah.
the like head of the network,
Yeah.
is like boring. And she's like, God, no one understands me. And I'm like, that would be so boring. A show
Yes.
about the UN?
Bad.
Every week they're like, well, we didn't get much done.
Model UN's a better show.
Yeah.
Because then it's like teens
romance.
awkward hooking up. Yeah.
I do think that the Sting instrument episode is also the one where the old man is wandering the halls and then they find out that he was a blacklisted writer.
And it's literally fucking Eli Wallach. It's
Yes.
the same plot as The Holiday.
Yes.
It's Eli Wallach in both stories.
Yes.
They aired around the same time.
Yes.
And
I
it's
realized
both.
that.
I guess it's in The Holiday, he's not blacklisted, and in this one, he is.
Correct.
In The Holiday, he's just old.
He's just old.
Right. There's no sad history beyond that he's
Right.
old and cannot
Right.
climb
Father
stairs.
Time's getting ready to blacklist him.
He's like, I remember these halls. I worked in this room.
It's so
like,
wild.
Like, shut up, old man.
And they're like, oh, no, I figured out who you are. This way, sir.
Right.
And they let him live out. Yes. And I think it's also the Abbott and Costello episode. I think it's all one episode.
The one where
I
fucking
remember
Nick Courtney gives his
yes.
parents an LP of Who's on First.
It is.
You should be put in jail.
I have since watched the entire show. You're going to listen, and then you're going to laugh.
And then you're going to listen again.
And laugh even more.
What if
It's called Who's
your
on
parents
First?
didn't understand you're like, hey, parents, I want to be in comedy. And they're like, well, we don't understand that. And your reaction to that was, here's an LP of the Who's on First joke.
Yeah.
The routine.
Your parents didn't get your career, and you gave them an LP of the first episode of WTF.
But it's like, you're like, here's a joke from before you were born so
Right.
that you can understand comedy.
It would probably not go over well.
They'd be like, yeah, we know Who's on First. How do you make money doing this? Like, yeah, we're aware. Who's on First? It's his name.
Come up with an equally important bit.
Your parents don't understand podcasting, so you give them the first wax cylinder recording. You're going to listen, and you're going to hear voices.
And the thing that prompts this is that he's giving his dad a tour of the studio. And
Right.
at the middle of it, his dad stops, turns to him and screams, your brother is in the middle of Afghanistan right now.
Yes. God, what a show.
And that's why
His parents seem unimpressed, and instead they are actively hostile because he's not
And-
putting his life on the line
Right.
for his
Even though their
country.
son is making millions of dollars
He's Tom
on a
Jeter.
network television show. He's Tom Jeter. For
He's the
fuck's sake.
cutie pie of fucking Studio 60. He was the it guy. He was going to move to features.
Was he? Was
It
that the
felt
plan?
like it. Yeah. He was the Jimmy analog, right?
What an the Fallon? Is he supposed to be Fallon?
I have the same memory as you, Eva, which a couple years ago watched the whole show after giving up when it originally aired. And I feel like I gave up around episode 4 or 5, and it feels like everything we're describing was in the episode I gave up on, where it was just like early in its run, there's one episode that is overloaded with so much insane shit that it was like, I cannot do this anymore. I'd rather be doing homework.
yeah.
Yeah.
They end up like going on a road trip later in the season. That's kind of where I fell off.
Well, there's the episode where they get arrested in the small town and John Goodman's the
Harumph.
judge.
Yeah.
That's a 3-part episode.
Yeah, that's what
I'm
I'm
not
thinking about.
joking.
Right, so I think that's threaded in the
It's
same
all
episode.
happening at the same time. Yes. No,
Oh,
it's all
man.
going on at the
Rob
same
Reiner's hosting, Sting's the musical guest, Christine Lottie is embedded.
And this show got canceled.
No, the idea is this is like the biggest comedy show in America.
But in real life,
In
it
real
did get
life,
canceled.
yes, but they gave it a full season.
They did
Ben.
give it a full
It did
season.
22 episodes, more than most streaming shows do in the entirety of their lifespan.
And it also aired the same season as the first season of 30 Rock. They started, so it was
And everyone
two
thought 30
shows
Rock
about
would die.
fake SNLs
Right.
simultaneously on television.
And Studio 60 premiered a month earlier, and everyone felt bad for Tina Fey. Like, you're going to be the also ran.
Right, you'll get swamped by this shit. But in Studio 60, Matthew Perry's like, be quiet. I have to make comedy that will change America.
Yeah.
And in 30 Rock, it's like, yeah, the show is just like farting. Like,
Right.
No one thinks this is good.
Yeah.
Like,
We need an opening to address the controversy of our former, basically the Lorne Michaels of the universe, who's played by Judd Hirsch, having a meltdown on camera, right, during the live broadcast.
Another network. They do
Yes.
they do network, and then he does it again in Newsroom immediately.
Yes.
Right.
And they're like, we need the perfect cold open to address this. And then Matthew Perry goes like, well, be the perfect model of a modern network TV show. Gilbert and Sullivan.
Right. Who are the best satirists ever? Gilbert and Sullivan.
It's like they called them the original frat humor.
There you go. I just remember
The Commedia
that.
dell'arte sketch.
That's at the
they
end of
always
episode
talk about
2.
the Commedia dell'arte sketch.
Right.
Yes, that's the end of episode 2.
And I remember I was a TV blogger. I was in college.
Yeah.
We were all hyped for Studio 60. It was
Yeah.
Aaron Sorkin's big follow-up to The West Wing.
Mhm.
The pilot script had gone around. The pilot
Yeah.
script is identical pretty much to what aired.
Yeah.
We'd all read that, and we were like, it's pretty good. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. And I remember Emily St. James, longtime friend of the
The great.
show, DMing me probably on fucking MSN Messenger or whatever we used
Yeah.
back then, being like, the second episode ends in this way with a Gilbert and Sullivan. Give me a little pause. I'm a little worried Aaron Sorkin maybe doesn't get what SNL
First
is.
episode,
Yeah.
in the moment, basically everyone
You're
said
like,
slam
"Oh,
dunk.
this is fine. This is good.
But
yeah.
you only had to see sketches from when the show was bad. And then
Right.
episode 2 where it's like, and now they brought in the best guys to ever do it. And you're
they
like,
do a Gilbert
the
and
show
Sullivan
seems
sketch.
worse now.
The show seems kind of up its own ass. Why
Did we
would that
ever
be?
see Crazy Christians?
We only see like a minute of Crazy Christians.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
one of their most controversial sketches.
It's called Crazy Christians.
They dare.
Let me guess. It's about religious people,
But
but
now
they're crazy.
I know we can't actually say this on the podcast.
But the breakout, sort of like the Kristen Wiig, the Kate McKinnon of the show at that moment, is also devoutly religious.
She loves God.
This show.
She was
Put that in your
offended.
pipe and
Okay,
smoke
listen,
it.
I'm actually getting fucking mad hearing
It got
about
canceled.
this. No, I know.
The axe of popularity swung and beheaded it.
This is Patio 60 on the Sunset Cast, of course. This is the beginning. We know we had told you other things were going to be planned for the rest of the year. No, this is Blank Check with Griffin and David. I'm Griffin.
I'm David.
So fast. Sliding in right before the door closes on your fingers.
Yeah, sledgehammering right there
Yeah.
at the end.
Feathers flying everywhere. It's a podcast about filmographies, directors who have massive success early on in their careers and are given a series of blank checks to make whatever crazy passion projects they want. Sometimes those checks clear, and sometimes they bounce, baby. This is a mini-series on the films of David Fincher. It's called The Curious Pod of Benjamin Buttcast.
That's right.
And I'm going to hit butt really hard.
Buttcast.
Buttcast.
This is the first episode we're recording, but that is
Yes.
the name of the series.
Because our guest, who we threw a flyer out to, happened to suddenly be in town. And so we've jumped ahead a little bit in order to record with her, which we're very excited about returning to the show. The great Eva Anderson.
Hey guys.
The
What's
best
up?
guest
What's
in
up?
podcasting, as we have said.
That's
Ah,
right.
You flatter me. And not true, but I'll take it.
It is true. It is true.
I'm very excited. Obviously, I met you in person, Griffin, last year.
We went to the Magic Castle.
we went to the Magic
which is an
Castle.
incredible night. Thank you very much
But I've
for the
never
invite.
met David or Ben
Mm.
in person.
Yes.
So I'm so psyched.
I have no, as we were just reminiscing, I've really known you for like 10 years.
We have been
Online.
online
though.
friends for
Online
10
friends.
years.
Not IRL.
I guess it was Bang Bang. It was You're the Worst. I feel like it was You're the Worst, though. I interviewed Steven.
Stephen
like-
Falk,
Yes.
showrunner of You're the Worst.
Yes. Way back when. And I remember, I don't know. You guys were like a little ragtag team over there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
We were. That was a fun. We watched Studio 60 during our lunch break sometimes
Amazing.
in the writers' room,
For inspiration?
just to as bonding experience.
Simon Stiles.
Yeah.
Alex Dwyer. Great.
So we,
Helberg.
George Lucas Talk Show, deep pandemic, we used to do these marathon fundraisers where we pick like a canceled show and try to watch all of it in real time, do a very long live stream and get people who worked on it. And Patrick Hotner's greatest passion project was to do Studio 60.
Mhm.
And he booked 60 guests, I believe,
Wow.
over the course of whatever, like 22 hours, whatever, 20 hours, because it was the whole fucking season. But we had Nate Torrance on, who was also one of the cast members in the fake Studio 60.
Of course, he played, I'm going to look that up for you right now, a character. He was kind of the, I don't know, Horatio Sands of the show?
Yeah, a little more
Dylan
frat boy.
Killington.
Yeah. but
Was he the
Sweetie
Rob
Pie.
Riggle? Oh, he was a
Maybe.
sweetie pie.
He was a sweetie pie. He was like Farley minus the partying, minus the vices, maybe.
What's Matthew Perry's character's name? Of course,
As we all
Matt Albee?
know, his name is Matt Albee.
Matt Albee.
Yeah.
And there's always been a very funny
It's
Matt
still-
Albee Twitter.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
it is
Still
still
going.
maybe the best account on Twitter
I agree.
because it is just always like, fucking Studio 60 would like to welcome Chris Licht or whatever. Like
Right.
the minute something happens to someone, he's
Yes.
I think I know who does that. Do you guys know who does that?
I do, but I've
yeah.
forgotten who it is.
I think it's Seth Reese.
Yes,
it's
Seth Reese,
Reese.
writer
At
of
least
the
it used to
menu.
be.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
At least, he did at one point.
Yes. But Nate Torrance, we had him on, and we were talking about this thing of like the people who were on the fake cast of that show, minus D.L. Hughley and Sarah Paulson, arguably, were all people who you like could have believed were in an SNL bubble, where you're like, Helberg could have ended up on SNL if the
Mhm.
chips fell a different way.
Cordry, perhaps.
Yeah. So Patrick was asking all of them this, and Nate Torrance was like, I tested for both.
Whoa.
And it was that thing of like, is the better career move to go on SNL or go on Studio 60?
That's crazy.
Is the better career move to do the real thing or the fake thing that is the follow-up from like the master writer of television. Isn't that a wild thing to think about, being put in that position?
To be auditioning for The Thing and the parody of The Thing
Yeah.
simultaneously.
I don't remember if he got to make the choice or the choice was made for him, but it was like he was very close to both at the same time.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
This is not about Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip. Today we're talking about Panic Room, a movie that has nothing to do with Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip. Is there any
connection?
There has to be something.
I feel like Ann Magnuson might have made an appearance in Studio 60 or something like that.
I like to imagine in the universe of Studio 60, Ann Magnuson was like the Catherine O'Hara, where she was like technically a cast member, but because of a writer's strike, she never did an episode, or she quit before the episode actually aired or something. What, David?
Did Gavin Polone? No. Well, he produced Gilmore Girls. I don't know. He did TV.
Dwight Yoakam's definitely been a musical guest on Studio 60.
In the world.
In the universe.
As Raoul.
And he might have actually...
Dwight Yoakam as Raoul.
The bus driver?
He might have been a guest / host. In the Studio 60 universe, maybe Dwight Yoakam is the one who has a Chris Gaines. And
he did Raoul was on set, and then Dwight Yoakam.
Guys, I think they did a crazy twist where they had Yoakam host and they had Billy Bob be the musical guest that week.
But as his Sling Blade character.
Yes.
And he actually was playing Sting's lute. It was still there.
Yeah. And then he ripped up a picture of Louis Farrakhan live on TV. I don't know. How do I thread this?
And Ben's going to make fun of me.
Yeah.
And then we should talk about Panic Room.
Yeah. I think we're here to talk.
When I was a kid, Sting obviously was still famous, but he was fully in his like lute playing phase, right?
Not only that, but
he'd become like full cornball.
I feel like whatever the interview was where he mentioned that he practices tantric sex became the whole thing.
It was like he just has sex with his wife.
Right.
He plays his like lute and world music shit. Like he
wears
become full cornball.
Incredibly thin linen shirts.
And I was like, as a kid, I was like, why do I have to even? His name was Sting.
Yeah.
Why do I have to pay attention to this guy?
Right. Everyone around me mocks him for being pretentious.
And now now I listen to the Police and I'm like, yeah, they had something going on.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I knew Ben would get mad.
No. I was worried that you were going to say, I listened to solo Sting records.
No.
Exactly.
And I actually
I don't know
I
don't know that I've ever really put on a solo Sting.
In a way.
It was like Stuart Townsend is the Police, really? Is that
But
who
like
he
Sting
is?
was in the Police.
He's in it, but like he's not
wasn't
the mastermind of
so
the
maybe
Police.
that's why
He was the Diana Ross of the Police.
Right. So then he steps aside and then of course his music's goofy.
Because like those Police albums are by and large fucking great.
They got some hits and they're all really great musicians.
Yeah. And
so
all blonde.
Yeah.
They were hot. Look, they're hot as hell. And he's from Newcastle, where I went to college, Sting.
Okay.
So he's kind of a local boy. You know, Newcastle is still kind of like, we got Sting. He's ours. But I don't know. It took me a while to realize why anyone would care about it. He's handsome.
Fun fact about Sting, he practices tantric sex.
Yes.
Wait, what? What does that mean?
9 hours.
Binge session. No quibbies for this guy.
No quick bites.
Oh man.
Oh boy.
What?
Right. I just look at Matt Albee's Twitter feed is still up. It's like Elizabeth Holmes reports to prison. He's like, when she gets out, her job on the writing staff will be waiting for her.
Oh man.
Oh,
Matt
boy.
Albee.
Matt Albee.
He's still
one of the greats.
every week he just tweets we're dark this week. Since the strike began.
Solidarity.
You've never been in a room with him, right? Have you, Matt Albee? Have you ever been on the same staff as him?
No, I was on a staff with Seth Reese though. That's why I was while he was doing Matt Albee.
Yeah.
We should mention too about the room we're in.
Oh, sure.
We kind of discovered recently we're, obviously been recording out of our new studio.
Yeah, look, we had a very hard time finding a space in New York City that met our needs. And, you want a place that has a certain amount of soundproofing.
New York real estate. Don't get me started.
Don't get you started. But we found this room that fit our needs perfectly.
Yeah.
A long search. We've been very happy with it.
Windowless.
Yes.
True.
Yep.
Yeah, it is kind of a fortress.
Right. We were like, why would this room even exist in this building? Why would you build one like this? And we found out this was, in fact, intended to be a panic room.
Yeah, you guys closed on this place really fast, right? Because last week it was like a different address I was coming to, and all of a sudden you're here.
Well, and you don't have to pay the price on the tag.
It's not Barney's?
It's not Barney's. Mom, you don't have to pay the price on the tag. It's not Barney's mom.
She says that with such confidence, and I'm like, what do you know about real estate?
Scoot by and say that? It's like a scoot by.
She's scooting. Yeah, she's actually heavy on the scooting in that open. It's really good.
Yeah.
Just business, good business.
Razoring out of control.
And also, that was the time. Was when the kids all had scooters all of a sudden.
Razor.
It was like, who gave them these things?
My favorite thing about the Razor scooter was it was just like this kind of ingenious product, right? Where I just remember the first time you saw a kid scoot by on the street with one, you were just like, what the fuck is that?
How are they going that fast?
Right. And then the moment you see them fold it, and you're like, fuck, it's just like that. Incredible. Everyone buys one, right? And then, as often seems to be the case, the Razor company is like, fuck, we made a product that people only need to buy one time. And we basically sold it to everyone.
It's kind of
who wants
indestructible.
one.
Yeah, right.
Instant pot.
And then the exact Instant Pot
They're
thing.
dead, right? They're like fully
They're
dead.
bankrupt.
They sold all the Instant Pots, and now they're like, shit.
They also got venture capitalists.
Right.
But
But it's a problem. Like, they make you expand the venture capital.
But also they were like, our product is so good that no one ever needs to buy a second one, so let's now branch into different products, and all the other products failed.
What else did they make?
They were like, oh, now we're making like a fucking tempura maker or whatever. I don't know. They just added all these different...
The Razor
like,
tempura maker.
Yeah. Yes. Razor was just like, how do we fucking iterate? And they were like, lights in the handlebars. You're like a light on the front. They're like, no, the lights are on the side.
Right.
Great.
Lights in the wheels.
Yeah,
They just kept on adding more shit. But they knew the part of it was like the design was so simple that you couldn't... Shocks. They added shocks.
I do remember shocks. Ben, did you have a Razor scooter or something like it?
No, I wasn't a friggin' dork.
I guess you were also too old. That was really for like a 10-year-old when it came out.
Yeah.
We were already teenagers.
No, I remember seeing that. I remember seeing kids even trying to do tricks on it, and me and my friends would just fucking dunk on
That's
them.
what the shocks were for.
Like, where they try to like do a little 360 and like jump and land on it or whatever. Not cool.
Yeah.
The least cool extreme sport of all time. It's like Razor scooter, rollerblading, then BMX, skateboard, of course, obviously, is on top.
Little Manhattan Griffin Nooms. Just having a peaceful little scoot.
You had a scooter?
Are you kidding me? Yeah.
I live in fear of my daughter getting her first scooter. It's coming. We're getting close. She'll be scooting.
Razor?
No. But, one of those little kid scooters.
Sure.
Okay. Panic Room. What are we guys talking about? Sorry.
We were talking about her scooting around while she says the Barney's line.
Kristen Stewart is
Scoot by.
iconic in this film.
She's so good.
She's so good. You have the 2020 hindsight bias of like, I know she turns into a movie star and a good actor.
Yes.
But I remember liking her at the time.
Absolutely.
And thinking like, oh, she's a cut above a kid actor. And this was in the era of really annoying kid actors too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's another way in which you're like, this movie now 20 plus years on has this weird power of like watching young child star Kristen Stewart and being like, she's one of the few who has gotten to have a Jodie Foster type career.
Right.
Jodie Foster always one of the few that people cite as like perfect transition.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, and weirdly, her transition was Twilight, right? Where she went from like teen to adult, like over those movies.
Yeah, and then she comes out the other side of it and is like, I'm using my clout to like get interesting movies made and work with interesting auteurs and yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love her. She's one of my absolute favorites now.
No, I remember, unsurprisingly, this was like 12-year-old Griffin Newman seeing this movie, massive crush on her.
Oh, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. She's cool as hell.
Yes. And then in the time between that and when Twilight comes out, and people would be like, yo, like, who's your big movie star crush? I'd be like, Kristen Stewart. And they'd be like, who? And I'd be like, the girl from Panic Room.
Uh-huh.
So is that why you were a big Zathura fan?
Correct.
Because she's in Zathura.
In the Land of Women?
Yeah, you were a huge In the Land of Women fan?
I wouldn't say huge, but I owned it.
I saw that movie because Adam Brody was in it. And I was like enough of an OC super fan that I was like, I see anything that he's in.
Yeah. Into the Wild, that was a performance that kind of drove me insane.
She's good in that movie.
I mean, insane in the fact that
you had a crush on her.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kristen Stewart, love her. She is in Panic Room. This is the film Panic Room.
Mm-hmm.
It is the 5th film in David Fincher's career. It's his follow-up to Fight Club.
Yes.
And I feel like it's a very conscious response to Fight Club.
Yes. Which people forget was a flop.
Was a moderate flop. And he's just like, I'm scaling all my ambition back, but also I am scaling it up in that I'm constraining myself.
Yes.
But I'm making a very simple thriller.
It's true. Like I just watched Fight Club again for Doughboys.
You did Fight Club on the Doughboys. That's right.
And it's interesting because of like one of the maybe problems. I don't know what you guys said about Fight Club, but maybe one argument one could be had. It was just like Fight Club's about too much stuff.
Yeah.
It's about everything.
It's right. It's like, let's encompass the feelings of an entire generation and also American society
And masculinity.
where it's all pointing. Right.
It's Gen X's howl.
Yeah. And then Panic Room is kind of not about anything.
Panic
It's
Room is
about
like,
nothing.
wouldn't it suck if this happened?
Right.
What if there was a Panic Room? I was thinking about that because you say that all the time. It's like, this movie is truly like, what if there was a Panic Room?
It is.
Yeah.
It is very much what if there's a Panic Room, which I think is literally what David kept. He was just kind of like, I've been hearing a lot about Panic
I
Rooms.
read a trend piece about this,
Right.
went into the offices of Sony, and they handed him $2 million. Four?
$4 million for
Yeah.
this script. But which makes sense because it's like, what if there's a panic room? Okay, I know what a panic room is. What if someone tried to rob you? Well, I'd go in my panic room. Yeah, but what if the thing
thing's
they
in
want
there?
it's in the panic room?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, now we're cooking with gas. He's like, we are cooking with gas. Gas is in the script.
Yes.
There's a gas sequence.
Also, my gas costs $4 million if you want a liter.
I remember the trailer when he holds up the thing we want is in the room
Yeah.
being absolutely just killer.
Yes.
This is as a big movie nerd kid that would just like obsessively read every fucking dork website I could and thought I was ahead of the curve and knew every movie that was in the pipeline. And by this age, when this movie comes out, I guess I'm 13, would sit in the theater and the trailer would come up, and in the first 5 seconds, I'd turn to my friend and be like, "Oh, this is that movie." You know, like even if I was seeing a trailer for the first time, I've read about this. It's this actor in this thing. I remember this movie somehow completely passing by me.
Oh, really?
The trailer coming up, going like, "What is this?"
Mm.
And
Guess
then
you
when
weren't a
that
super fan.
sign goes up, I was just like, "Fucking money in the bank."
Yeah.
Perfect premise, perfect setup. This is Fincher and Foster. I'm in. Hardcore.
Did you see it though? Because it must have been rated R.
Isn't it PG-13?
They say fuck a lot. It's rated
you're right.
R.
No, I distinctly remember seeing this with my mom.
Right. Well, if your mommy took you. Because you would have been 13 years old.
I was 13.
Right. I was
Yeah.
16.
Did
Yeah.
you see it in
I
the
did.
theater?
Absolutely. I was a big 16-year-old Empire magazine reading film nerd. I loved David Fincher.
Yeah.
And I loved whatever.
And I was a little petite Manhattanite razor scootering Entertainment Weekly reading film nerd whose mommy accompanied him.
I did not see this with my mommy. I'm pretty sure I saw it with
It's
Ollie
a
Stevens.
humble
Shout out
brag.
Ollie Stevens, my best friend.
Not the Ollie
And-
part, the not being with your mom.
And it was
part
rated
is a humble brag.
15 in England. So I
Wow.
just waltzed right in.
Okay.
I was 16 whole years old.
Eva, did you see this in theaters?
No, I was a senior in film school
Okay.
and I was distracted. I
Mm.
think I was just busy just fucking around.
Were you a Fincher fan at that point?
I did see Fight Club
Mhm.
in school, and I mentioned this on Doughboys, but that night my friend Josh started a Fight Club
Right.
and
yes.
just
Unrelated though. He
started-
was like, not because of the movie.
started punching people just outside in the quad.
So that like immediately made you like the movie less, I'm sure.
Yeah, I feel like I liked Fincher though. I liked
Yeah, Fincher was hot stuff.
yeah, he was fun. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't see Panic Room. I think I was just broke
Yeah.
and not going to the multiplex.
I mean, more.
So it's an April release, comes out around
March.
final season.
March.
I'm
Okay.
graduating
Yeah.
college.
Yes.
What was
you're,
your
you're
film
working on your
school?
thesis.
I went to USC.
Heard of it.
I was classmates with John Chu. He was my year.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
John M. Chu.
And he
John
was
and
like,
Chu.
I've always wanted to make a movie in which G.I. Joe got retribution. And you were like, you should do that.
Yeah. Have
He
you
did
told
say
anyone
that.
this?
What's your dream, John? Great. A good filmmaker. I like John.
I like him too.
He's great. Great guy.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I didn't see it. So this is my first time seeing it.
What was your? Did you have to do a thesis film?
I produced the USC splits you up. So
Okay.
4 people direct and you have to compete for that role and then everybody else works on their movies.
Okay.
John Chu works with a lot of the same people that worked on his thesis film.
That's
cool.
nice.
Yeah.
He never forgot where he came from.
Yeah.
Yeah. But did you work on his?
No, I
No.
worked on an okay movie that was very fun and all my friends worked on and we had to build a moon set, which
That's cool.
that was super
Oh.
fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, we had to build a moon set.
Moonset's cool.
Yeah.
Panic Room objectively was seen by more people in theaters.
Yeah.
But certainly does feel like a film less people recall.
Yes.
And less people have seen than, say, Fight Club, which it did better than.
I do think it is this thing, a type of movie we've covered before on the podcast, where someone who sort of was like a blank check filmmaker and then did not immediately figure out how to follow up on the promise and the excitement around them is sort of like, I just need to get safe again, right? Like, I need a movie that pushes me back into the safe zone, because I think
deliver entertainment.
Yes.
Successfully.
Yeah, and I think the other part of it was like, much like a lot of these guys, very quickly, it's like Fincher's very demanding. He takes a very long time. It costs a lot of money, you know? Where it's like, I need to produce a film that is like under control. That is under control, that is straight down the middle, that is easy to pitch, that is not going to push people away.
Yes.
Didn't he plan every single shot?
He did. He later said that was a mistake.
Yes.
He shouldn't have done that.
But this movie there is a notorious 3-disc special edition of this film that's sort of peak DVD special features, where there are 2 discs of nothing but special features. And 1 disc is just pre-production, and 1 disc is post-production.
Sure,
1 disc is
cool.
pre and pro, and 1 disc is post.
That's cool.
And it's got like hours of shit on both. It's like basically the film school, like comprehensive. You see every step of it. But that disc 2 is so much about that he basically created the pipeline for how all fucking blockbusters are made on
like
this
just
movie.
Previs everything.
Just previs literally everything.
Oh.
Especially he had the advantage of, we know we're in this confined environment. We can map it out, every inch of it. So the camera can do things through visual effects as well. It can pass through walls and stuff, but we can
pass through coffee machines?
Yes.
Yep.
And it'd be cool if the lens then had coffee on it after it did that, but they didn't decide to do that.
Well, they go through the handle.
Yeah, but it would have been cool if they gone through the coffee,
And then
they
coffee's
were like
dripping down
and
it.
then there was a little
Then
wiper.
the glass would shudder. That's a Mel Brooks bit. You're pitching
You're pitching
I think that would have been
Panic
good.
Room.
Panic Attack Room or whatever Mel
Dead and
Brooks'
loving it.
movie. Panic Room, Dead and Loving It.
Wait, fuck. Mel Brooks should have done that.
Should have done Panic Attack Room?
Yeah, and then had bits where the camera like goes into, swings around, and then like hits someone, and they're like, "Ow!"
Yeah,
that'd be good.
Yeah, it should have been him.
Yeah, him.
In the Jodie Foster role.
No, he should have played Raoul.
He should play both.
Because he could do it. Mask.
Right. And then like Peter McNichol's his son is like the Kristen
Yeah.
Stewart type. Yeah.
I love it.
Peter McNichol.
Of course.
Okay.
Wait, what was I saying here?
The
previs thing.
prevising. Yeah.
Oh, I think the main storyboard artist on this film was Peter Ramsey, who then goes on to direct Rise of the Guardians and the first Spider-Verse.
Oh, wow.
And so I
Okay.
was just watching 45 minutes of him talking over a sort of split screen. Do you remember when the big thing they thought was the future of DVDs was the angle button?
Oh,
And they were like, you can push the angle button and move between
I remember
different...
that, and what a nightmare.
Yes. And now, like, my modern remote does not even have a way to access it. And the screen basically broke and was just like, we're showing you everything at the same time. You cannot toggle between these things. But it was like the 40 minutes of footage that was the dailies from the movie in one screen and the previs in the other.
Oh, cool.
With Peter Ramsey talking through it.
Right.
And it's like, there were things we would find, I mean, we're going out of order here. I'll save this tidbit. There were things we'd find that we couldn't execute as planned. But basically, every day, everyone had already prepped everything based on the footage.
Right.
Where he was just like, do exactly this. And we would just try to do that.
Right.
And that was his whole thought was, I can just make this whole movie in advance. And then everyone just knows what to do.
Yeah. And it basically worked, but it also kind of broke his brain. And he doesn't make a movie for 5 years after this.
Yeah.
And in this early phase of his career, that's the longest break he takes.
Right.
Like after Gone Girl, obviously, he would take 6 years to make Mank. That's like you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, this is 3 years after Fight Club.
Right. It's like Alien 3, and then 3 years later, 7, and then 2 years later, The Game, and then 2 years later, Fight Club, 3 years later, Panic. You know, he made movies at a pretty impressive clip.
Yeah.
And then he takes a long break between this and Zodiac. Now, I think Zodiac was also an involved film.
And there's also
they had to make San Francisco into a computer. Basically.
On our Zodiac episode, we'll talk about in between the two. There are a lot of almost projects. Mission Impossible 3 being the biggest one that he was supposed to do for a while.
Right.
Yeah. and would have made a ton of sense doing that.
Yeah, well, but I think this movie was tough for him to make.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Well, and also right, the Jodie Foster, all the circumstances, the production of this movie was kind of insane.
Yeah,
it's the fucking rabbit's foot thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll not make something like Fight Club. I'll make a tight Hitchcockian thriller set in one location, and then like the monkey's paw is like Nicole Kidman will break her fucking knee, and like Jodie Foster will get pregnant. You know, like all this stuff's gonna happen.
Actually, the opposite of a rabbit's foot.
Yeah, whatever. I forgot what the animal's hand was.
Rabbit's toe curls.
Yeah, and then you win $1 million. That's what a rabbit's foot does.
Why is a rabbit's foot lucky?
I feel like if anyone would know the answer to this, it would be you, Eva.
I don't know.
Fuck.
I thought you were going to say it would be a rabbit.
But would be a rabbit would know.
Did you hear the dogs outside in the hallway?
I actually did.
Yeah, we
that
might
was
want
real.
to protect ourselves.
Jeez. All right. Well, thankfully we're safe.
Let me open up the dossier. So
you don't want to like push a button. You don't want to like commit to this in a way where we like push a button and a door closes or something.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to do that?
I mean, I think we should. I'm pretty scared by that one isolated dog bark.
Looking at that bit clock.
Great. David, open the dossier.
So, one thing that we're going to do on almost every one of these David Fincher episodes is we're going to talk about the many projects he attached himself to after his last big movie. So, after Fight Club, David Fincher was initially going to make a movie called The Night Watchman. Cool.
Yeah.
We love it. It's nighttime, mysterious.
Yeah. Tick, tick.
Watchman looks for things.
Yeah.
What is a movie if not seeing things? This thing writes itself.
Sure.
It was written by James Ellroy. It was an original script written by James Ellroy.
That's kind of cool.
It was a murder mystery set in a post-O.J. Simpson L.A. with elements of Unforgiven and The Verdict, with strong roles for a cop investigating the murder and the murderer.
What does post-O.J. Simpson L.A. mean?
I don't know.
Does it mean he's dead?
Yeah, finally, we've gotten rid of him.
The movie begins with him being buried.
His reign of terror
They're
is
using
over.
O.J. Simpson like a natural disaster?
In the wake of 9/11.
In the wake of O.J. Simpson.
Yeah.
I assume it's just kind of, it's like,
He's killed everyone in L.A. himself.
This, I imagine, is one of those scripts that you can probably like find, right?
Okay,
like,
sure.
Right?
Yeah,
It's like those like hot scripts that never got made. They're floating around. So I think Keanu Reeves was initially supposed to be the star of this.
Fincher
sort of post.
and Keanu have circled each
flirted.
other a lot on several different things and have never actually pulled it off, which would be interesting to see happen now.
It means, sorry guys, what that means is a character would like to be racist, but can't.
Right.
That's what post O.J. Simpson LA means. Oh, you can't say anything anymore.
You can't say anything
That's like,
anymore.
I'm sure James Ellroy had that conversation in his circles.
Elements of Unforgiven in The Verdict does suggest that, yes, this Night Watchman might have a few things to say that are a little un-PC, right?
Perhaps that's why it doesn't get made. Yes.
Anyway, that doesn't happen.
Okay.
And then Fincher starts circling The Black Dahlia, based on a James Ellroy novel. Which, if you've never read, is quite a tome of a book. It's a wonderful book. The first of his LA Quartet. I was a big Ellroy kid when I was a teen. Loved reading about it.
It's a great book.
It's an amazing book. But Fincher, as I think often happens with him, is like, well, this is too much. I want to do it all. It has to be a television series. It has to be a mini series, 5 episodes. And back then, now you say that to a studio and they're like, yes, make it 10 episodes. Please, long. Back then, studios balked at that kind of idea, and Brian De Palma takes over.
Was it him, or there was some other interview I was watching or listening to with the director where they were talking about a dream project of theirs that they wanted to do as a mini series maybe 10 years ago only? And whoever they pitched it to was like, my good sir, the mini series is dead. It is never coming back. It is a completely defunct medium. You are either doing an open-ended TV show or one movie.
Right.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. Right. And just everything by choice or not ends up being a limited series these days.
Right.
Whether by design or just
now
by
that would be the
cancellation.
move. Right. And God knows there probably will be, a fucking Black Dahlia miniseries soon
Almost definitely.
on, MGM Plus.
Yeah.
On the same day the Fight Club premiered at the Venice Film Festival, Fincher was also linked to the film The Mexican.
Sure.
Brad Pitt's upcoming project.
Brad was already attached?
Correct.
His favorite guy.
Kevin Reynolds had been attached. Fincher then gets attached. Gore Verbinski ends up making that movie.
Yeah. A movie I like.
Then the number one project Fincher is attached to, Griffin. We've talked about it before. Spider-Man.
Yes.
What if there was a man with the powers of a spider?
Right.
He's Sony's guy, and we talked about this a lot on that episode, I think, right? You know, like he's their first choice, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. They wanted him to do it, and it was a series of things.
Well, we've talked. He's like, I didn't want to do an origin story. I wanted to start with Gwen Stacy and the Green Goblin and kill Gwen Stacy immediately.
Insane.
I wanted to do a 10-minute title sequence that looked like a music video / opera. I don't know. I mean, he had all kinds of ideas. It doesn't work out.
Yeah.
He also wanted to do something called Passengers, which I think eventually was made into a movie,
but was not Passengers the movie.
That's not the Chris Pratt movie.
No, but it's one with it's sort of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where they aliens invade your brain. Maybe that never did get made.
Okay,
I don't know. And then he was also linked to Catch Me If You Can, which Spielberg makes.
Right.
Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, which George Clooney eventually makes. Fincher was going to make it with Mike Myers.
Yes, right.
Kinda
I remember
cool.
that being announced.
And a submarine drama written by David Ayer called Squids, which is another of those never got made movies.
Yes.
David Ayer loved to write movies about, soldiers.
Right.
And something called Pathfinder, a John Patrick Shanley script.
That's not the thing that ends up being made with Michael Fassbender, is it?
No, I don't think so.
That was a movie, right? There was some...
I don't know. It does sound like a movie. No, because, that's a sort of vintage epic, period.
Right.
This is not vintage.
Do you guys know who's a really weird Twitter follow?
Please.
Who?
John Patrick Shanley.
Oh, yeah? What's he up to?
On it. Posting weird selfies.
I have such doubts.
Just kind of vaguely horny stuff.
He is one of those guys where I am never ready for what his voice sounds like.
Oh.
Really? Is he
it's kind of raspy and
I am the Batman.
Did you see the pandemic movie?
Griffin saw that after having surgery. Mountain Time.
You saw Wild Mountain Time?
Yeah, yes. I was recovering from having organs taken out, and I watched it hopped up on Goofballs.
Did you think you dreamed the ending?
I texted David in real time, and I went, I don't know what people are talking about. This movie makes perfect sense.
He thinks he's a bee?
Yep. That's the twist of that movie, is that he identifies as a bee.
Did you know that, David?
Yeah, I did know that.
I was texting to
the
David
hot ending
in
of
real
Wild
time
Mountain
and sending him videos, and I was like, this is good.
Yeah, you were like, good, normal. It's where kind of where I expected it to go.
And I was like, maybe it's the drugs, maybe it's not. I'm just having a perfect experience.
Certainly, it had its fans.
It did?
Yeah, it had its sort of people no. It's gonna go crazy.
I believe I am a bee.
My takeaway from it, and this was what I was texting David as I was watching it, is that I could see that killing on stage.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And you watch the way it works as a movie, and you can feel the actors basically holding for laughs. But in an ecosystem where there is not that energy of the laughs coming, and they're just dead silences in between, in what's shot like a drama, it is incredibly off-putting. Yes.
But then you Kaiser Sose back through the movie, and he's been acting like a bee the whole movie.
Time.
Yeah. That's the weird part. You're like, oh, he was a bee the whole time.
But wait, how do you mean he was acting like a bee? Like he was going buzz?
There was a weird honey thing.
Yeah. But isn't there also a thing where there's sort of there's a red herring where people talk about her as if she's like a cat or something?
She's a swan.
She's a swan.
Yeah.
Right.
But he is a bee.
Right. And she's like, everyone thinks I'm like a swan. He's like, yeah, no, I'm straight up a bee.
Yes.
It's a weird movie, Ben.
It sounds like a weird
Also,
movie.
Christopher Walken is Irish in it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
And if you can't imagine an Irish accent on top of Christopher Walken's voice, that's what it sounds like. It sounds like you not being able to imagine it in real time.
It's like two audio tracks playing
yes.
in different ears.
It's one speaker of each. David?
Yes.
This episode is once again brought to you by Mubi. It's a curated streaming service dedicated to elevating great cinema from around the globe. From iconic directors to emerging auteurs, there is always something new to discover. And with Mubi, each and every film is hand-selected so you can explore the best of cinema, streaming anytime, anywhere.
Yes. Now, they do have a very exciting new film that's streaming on Mubi.
It's a Mubi release.
Globally.
Yes.
Rotting in the Sun, the new Sebastian Silva movie, which is wild.
Yes.
And I do recommend to anyone who just wants to have a crazy time. But of course, Mubi has lots of other stuff.
Jordan Firstman, the great actor, writer, filmmaker, comedy person, collaborated on this with Sebastian Silva, and they're playing like semi-autobiographical, parodical.
Yeah, right,
Is
totally.
that a good way to put it?
Yeah, and there's lots of dicks.
Okay, well,
They just put up a bunch of Yasuzo Masamura movies. We were just talking about that with the Doughboys, with Nick Weiger.
Giants and Toys, which is a very Griff movie, I would highly recommend to people.
Gonna check that out. But yeah, then they have a lot of movie exclusives like Decisional Leave.
Passages is about to hit, the great Irish sax film, which we plugged in a previous.
You like Passages, right?
I love Passages. You fucking kidding me?
I love Passages.
Look, Indignation, the James Seamus film.
Great movie.
Friend of the podcast.
Yeah, really good movie.
A really good movie.
Look, for a limited time, you can try Mubi free for 30 days at Mubi.com/blankcheck. That's MUBI.com/blankcheck for a month of great cinema for free. So, Mubi, check it out.
Just always a smart move.
Always a smart move.
Perfect.
Mubi.com/blankcheck.
Mubi.
Okay. The final thing he was, there's also a movie. This is another one of those never made things. They Fight Alone, which is like an American soldier in the Philippines. It's like a true story thing where he like builds a guerrilla movement during World War II and fights it. And that was going to be a Brad Pitt Fincher movie.
Yeah. Now, look, unsurprisingly, a lot of these things, and we'll talk about this in all these episodes, are like the hottest scripts that go around Hollywood, the biggest stars and directors attach themselves to. And Fincher is just always a guy where there's so much excitement about him, even when his career is
everyone wants to work with
down.
him. Right.
He usually takes a moment and has a dance with any kind of really buzzy script. But it almost always comes down to him being like, they're not going to let me make this the way I want to. I don't.
Right.
He's very pragmatic about like, I can just see this isn't going to work.
After Alien 3, he always had the spider sense.
Yeah.
That's my question. Like, why after Alien 3 would he even consider doing a franchise?
Yeah, I do think, right. I mean, I guess he had enough juice that he thought like, and Sony loved him. Fine, I'll go in there and pitch like, all right.
Right.
Minute 1, Gwen Stacy strangled to death or whatever. And they were like, no, thank you.
Well, also, like, to their credit, and you look at them ultimately hiring Raimi and really letting him go off, I do think they were like, we need to do like Tim Burton Batman. We
Franchises were less precious.
This needs to have a very specific voice behind it. Because it was, I mean, Cameron, him, ultimately Raimi. Who was the other person? I always forget.
McGee. No, I don't know.
There was one other person who was similarly kind of auteurist.
Big names. Yes. Yeah.
They wanted someone to actually have a take.
Like a singer.
What a genius.
But
the man had takes.
Kind of, right?
No, but it was,
No, when they hired Bryan Singer for X-Men, it was like, what
radical.
That guy would never do a comic book movie. Like Usual Suspects, one of the coolest movies of the 90s, like fuck off. Like, but then, and then it was the beginning of the now insidious, like, no, you don't understand. Like the comic book is about real issues.
A trauma, baby.
Right, yeah, And back then I was like, finally someone's saying this. And now when someone starts saying this, I'm like, can you just shut the fuck up?
Yeah.
David Koepp, UW-Madison alumnus, as our UW-Madison alumnus researcher JJ loves to point out.
Okay.
Toured a 4-story brownstone in New York in 1999, and it had a panic room in it.
Oh, he actually saw one. It wasn't just he read an article.
And then, of course, he's like, "Oh, I've heard of these things."
Now,
and he's like,
was it
an idea for a movie?
A brownstone, or was it
called
a townstone?
Secret Window? Damn, just need to get that joke.
Sorry.
He just said he says brownstone.
We stepped on each other's jokes.
It's okay. I don't know.
I like the
they're both good.
I like the townstone line in this movie.
I do too.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we'll talk about it.
Sure.
The whole opening sequence is brilliant.
Yeah.
And in the first draft, he never wanted to leave the house at all. They do briefly sort of show you the outside of the home in this movie.
You start on the block.
Yes.
Yes. Right. But you'd never really leave this block.
No.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, and then his next idea is like, who would buy such a place? And he's like, yeah, she should be recently divorced. She should be kind of on tilt, like sort of making maybe somewhat unreasonable choices and flush with money that's not really hers, or like that she doesn't really care about, right? Like she has this money, but she doesn't actually want to
right. And from that inception, you're coming up with a character who on paper is kind of like a classic Hitchcock ingenue, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
You could see it being a sort of Janet Leigh woman on edge. Yes.
I'm doing Janet Leigh in a movie. I don't know.
Okay.
She's holding a bag.
It's a weird impression. You're not going to get on Studio 60 with that one. I would cut it from the reel. Yeah.
Fincher apparently said, I stayed in an apartment with a panic room once in London in the early 90s, and I set the alarm off almost every week. And so I hated it.
Okay.
But he loved the idea of, rather than Fight Club, which had 100 locations, a million different setups or whatever, he's like, one location. What a great thing for me to do.
Yeah.
And he was going through divorce. No, he was past his divorce at this point, but he'd gone through a very big divorce with Dania Fiorentino. And he said he wanted to make the movie about divorce, like the idea of like, here I am in this empty fucking house with like plaster falling on my head, right? And like, just like that sort of like environment mood thing, like post-divorce mindset.
Yeah. And he, of course, hires the most obvious choice at that moment, post-divorce, Nicole Kidman.
That's true.
I don't know why I said Nicole.
Yeah.
Nicole Kidman.
She fucked up her Nicole
She'd
Kidman.
taken that awesome picture outside of the divorce court where she's all feeling herself.
And then she walked straight from that to a meeting with David Fincher.
So yeah, Nicole Kidman, I mean, she's for real at this moment, right? Like she wins an Oscar this year, in fact.
Yes.
For The Hours.
Yes.
But she's coming off of Moulin Rouge. The whole thing with her knee was that she had actually injured it making Moulin Rouge and not known.
Right. And sort of danced through it. Right. And it had never healed.
And then she re-injures her knee. Making 19 days into this shoot, she was running up and down the stairs.
But you hear him talk about in everything about the making of this film, the development of this film, that he like really built it around the idea of Kidman as the classic sort of like somewhat cold, inscrutable Hitchcock woman.
Yeah,
this very glamorous woman, a woman who is in way over her head, in this kind of situation. And originally it was announced as Nicole Kidman and Hayden Panettiere.
Yes.
And then they switch over to Kristen Stewart while it is still Nicole Kidman.
Yes.
But the whole conception was like her daughter is radically different.
That was the idea. She has this tomboy daughter.
Right.
Right. And she's this glamorous, divorcee.
Right.
And then when they cast Jodie, it's like, okay, so you have this daughter who's kind of exactly your energy.
Kind of perfect Jodie Foster type.
It's you, but little. So they also had to throw out 19 days of shoot. That's crazy.
Or at least probably most of it, right? I mean, I guess the stuff without Nicole maybe they could keep, but I don't know.
And then they wouldn't let him shut down. So they start filming. They identify in doing some action sequence. She thinks she fucks up her leg. In fact, she re-injures.
She has a fracture in
right.
her knee. Yes.
And there's just no way around this. He wanted to shut the movie down to rejigger it. They basically, I mean, the numbers I saw, there was some sort of calculation of like...
If they had shut the movie down and just never started filming again, they would have made $3 million off the insurance.
In profit.
Right.
What if they gave her a Jimmy Stewart wheelchair leg?
That would be bold.
Incredible.
It's like, not only is this set in one house.
Yes.
But she can't even climb the damn... I guess you just keep going to that elevator.
Yeah.
Every time, she would have to elevate herself up
but
and
also,
down.
He's built this set. He's done his classic Fincher. Every single gag needs to be tested for like 2 weeks before we film it. I mean, so much of this crazy DVD set is him just giving notes back on like the fucking rubber Dwight Yoakam fingers hitting the floor, not looking right. You know?
Wow.
Like shit like that where everything is like so precisely worked out. He's done this fucking previs thing to the nines, and now suddenly it's like, your actress can't move. And he's like, well, untenable. I'm not rethinking the entire movie around her not being able to move around.
Right.
He goes to them and says, we need to shut down and look for a new actress. And as you said, it was $3 million in profit if they just cut their losses and shut the movie down. If they let him take a break, continue renting the studio space, keeping everyone on hold while he rejiggered it, it costs an additional
$10 million extra to the budget.
Right. So they were like, you just have to keep shooting as much with the robbers as you can while we figure out the actress problem.
Ooh, okay,
it's a nightmare.
This builds into a theory I have about the movie.
Nightmare.
Okay.
But he's just barreling ahead. Jodie Foster is supposed to make Flora Plum, which is one of her grand passion project movies that never got made.
Her circus movie.
She was pushing uphill for so fucking long.
She had Russell Crowe, and then Russell Crowe hurt himself making it, or whatever, preparing for it. And so it shuts down. She was supposed to be in the game.
In the Sean Penn part.
Would have been so cool.
Yes.
Not that Sean Penn isn't fun in the game. He's kind of fun in the game.
But like loved Fincher.
Yeah. And
she wanted to work with him.
She had talked to him about Mank, which is like already a thing.
Yes.
Like they have Mank, I assume for the Amanda Seyfried, for Marion Crane, you know.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, like,
Marion
you know, back
Davies.
then. Marion Davies, not Marion Crane. Marion Crane's from Psycho. But like, right, you know, so like they were, they had circled each other before.
Yeah.
And so they bring her in.
But it was a thing where it's like, here's the pitch. If you want to do this, you start filming in 2 days.
Right. And, you know, Fincher says, like, you know, obviously the plus is you're getting Jodie Foster. You're getting a double Academy Award winner. Who's still pretty hot at this point, I feel like, career-wise, right?
Yeah.
Also, is you have to be like, Jodie, can you get tank top ready? She's like, already tank top ready. I'm tank top ready year round.
She's come off a bit of a little bit of a
she'd done
gap.
Anna and the King. But before that, Contact.
It's Contact and the King, and then it's 3 years until this and Ultra Boys in the same year.
What's
Ultra
the
Boys.
Brave one?
The Brave
That's
one's
07.
Okay.
That's sort of this run post Panic Room of.
This is her Flinty era. It's this Flight Plan, Inside Man, and the Brave one, where she plays like Flinty people.
And she's doing sort of like high thread count thrillers.
Right.
Yes. Adult thrillers.
As Fincher puts it, you know, you know, Nicole Kidman, Grace Kelly.
Yeah.
Glamour, physicality. With Jodie Foster, he says it's all about what happens in her eyes.
Yeah.
You know, she's nobody's fucking pet. She's nobody's trophy wife. Like, she's a different, she doesn't make as much sense, it's true, as like the divorcee of an older guy who's rich, right? Who's kind of like been cast aside.
Yeah, you immediately are like huge questions about this relationship from scene one. You're like, what?
With Nicole Kidman, you get, it's like, oh, it's some asslehole who's like, oh, you're 35,
traded
I'm
in for a newer model
right,
kind of thing.
Yeah, you're like, did she just, what was this marriage like?
I mean, my internal canon.
Did she leave him? It feels like she left him.
In my head.
Because he was cheating on her or whatever, right?
Right.
Yeah.
In my head, it's like they met when they were young.
But he's not, he's like 20 years older than her.
When they were younger, let's say.
Sure.
Right?
Right. Maybe not 20, but he's way older than her.
My feeling I get is the inherent downfall of their marriage that existed the whole time was that he was intimidated by her.
Yeah, well.
Right?
I'd be intimidated by her.
That's how I read the movie, is that like...
The actor is 24 years older than Jodie Foster. Yeah, which makes sense.
Her lack of submissiveness is what... Because even in the opening scenes with Kristen Stewart, what I think she plays very well is it's like, oh, the downfall of this divorce was probably you are emotionally inaccessible.
Also, she cloned herself when she had a child.
Yes.
And he was like, now there's 2 of you.
Yes.
I can't fight, come on.
Yes.
No, I like him. I like his casting. His casting's a really good surprise when this older guy comes in and you're like, who's this?
Right.
And it's like, oh, right. Like that's what this relationship was. Like he was, maybe a professor, right? She's going back to school.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But he's rich. So he's a professor on the side if he's anything.
No, he's a pharmaceutical guy.
Right.
That's how they say he has his
right,
name.
right.
They recognize his name.
I think it's old family.
She's married to Merck.
He's a Sackler.
Yeah, he's an old Sackler.
A fucking Sackler.
Yeah.
She was supposed to be the president of the Cannes jury this year.
Right.
Had to step down. Liv Ullmann swoops in and gives the Palme d'Or. I just have to look this up, to The Sun's Room. Yeah, the Nanny Moretti film.
Okay.
Should have given it to fucking Mulholland Drive.
This is that year?
Yeah, 2001.
Jodie woulda.
Jodie would have.
Shrek.
Jodie would have
This
been
is
like,
the Shrek year?
Yeah.
Shrek, it's time.
Yeah. Jodie, I'm just imagining Jodie Foster getting up and saying, "The wait is finally ogre. The Palme d'Or goes to Shrek."
Somebody once told me.
Orchestra plays it live.
I'm dizzy. I'm dizzy.
Shrek gets on stage and farts.
Right. Donkey.
Yeah.
He just says that.
They let a mascot character accept the Palme d'Or and give the speech.
Andrew Adamson is sitting in the fucking audience, his arms crossed. I want to accept the award. They're like, no, Shrek's getting it. It's for Shrek.
Andrew Adamson had this brief moment where he did Shrek, he did Shrek 2, and then the first Narnia film.
Yeah.
And you went, this man has the highest box office average of any director in film history.
This guy could remake Solo and it would make $1 billion.
Yes.
He can do anything.
And then what?
Then he did the second Narnia, which everyone was like, here we go. Narnia, fucking evergreen franchise. Second movie falls off a cliff. No one gives a shit.
Yeah.
And then has he done anything since then?
Yeah, he did a movie called Mr. Pip.
Okay. Oh, and he
with
directed
Hugh Laurie.
a Cirque du Soleil
And he directed
IMAX
a Cirque du
film.
Soleil IMAX film.
Yeah. What the fuck
Which
is
made
Mr.
$34 million at the box office.
Hey.
Not bad for a Cirque du Soleil movie.
Adamson's got the touch.
Mr. Pip appears to be, I don't know, Hugh Laurie. He's grumpy. What do you want from me?
I don't know.
Panic room. So she steps down. She has 9 days to prep.
Yeah.
The other thing, she starts filming it right as Hannibal comes out. Jodie Foster had famously to turn down $15 million to be in Hannibal because she thought it was. And I quote, gross.
Yeah.
I don't know. She actually said that.
Yuck.
And Dino De Laurentiis, a famously chill guy who never said anything weird in the press, was basically like motherfucking her in the press over this. Like being like, she needs us more than we need her, and like she has no sex appeal. Like he's literally said that.
Yeah.
Julianne Moore?
No, Jodie Foster.
I mean,
Julianne Moore replaces
is that
her.
who it is?
Correct.
Yes.
Starling?
Yes.
And then she starts making the movie. 5 weeks into the shoot, she sits down with David Fincher and she's like, I'm pregnant.
Right. So presumably she's been
trying. I don't know.
Right. Yes. Right. What can be a very long and unpredictable process, and it finally takes in the middle of filming this intensely physical, technically demanding film.
Right. So then they like put on a sweater for a lot of the scenes. None of this is in the movie.
Yes.
Like that, that we
they
see.
They give her an oversized sweater and just say, we're going to push through this and we will not tell anyone until it gets to the point where it is undeniable. Basically, because of the same thing of like, we can't shut down production.
Right.
And then when he screens it to the studio, they're like, we don't like any of these sweater scenes.
Yeah, we hate this sweater vibe.
Right.
And so then they like, reshot a bunch of it.
Right.
And
they basically like finished the movie in order to screen the movie for them to then get the money to go back and reshoot the stuff after she'd had the kid.
Oh, okay.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But also an insane thing where it's just like they start filming the movie with a different person. Then they're filming the movie with no star. Then they film with her. Then they're filming a bunch of stuff that gets thrown out in the name of her pregnancy. And then they finally go back and finish the movie like 4 months before it comes out.
Right.
The final leg of the shoot was like end of 2001.
It shouldn't have been easy, but it happened and it's fine.
So 9/11 also happens in the middle of it?
Yeah.
True.
Yes.
Yes.
In a post 9/11,
we're making Panic Room. Okay?
Mid OJ climate.
Mid OJ climate.
We still live in a mid OJ climate.
We live in a peak OJ climate, I feel.
He's one of my favorite content creators.
He is out there. I mean, God bless him.
King Poster.
Not God bless him. He's a terrible person. Wait, why did I say that? I'm totally. I have to tell Ben this next thing.
Write-in ballot, O.J. Simpson for president? What do you have to tell Ben?
So the character of Raoul in this film is played by Dwight Yoakam.
Yeah.
A singer.
Yeah.
But also he'd been in Sling Blade. That was kind of what he got cast off of.
I think we need to do a Dwight Yoakam character actor sidebar in a second.
We'll talk about that.
In a second.
But the first choice was Maynard James Keenan. the front man of Tool.
I actually saw this.
I figured you might have. He was busy working with a Perfect Circle at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Oh shit!
His follow up, because that Perfect Circle sounded like a super group, right? It was like him and who's the other big guy? Like James Iha from Smashing Pumpkins and stuff. You know, it was like cast-offs from other whatever hard rock bands.
So Raul had to be a rock star in this concept.
I guess he's just like, I just want a sort of like weird singer freak with kind of glassy eyes. Like
Flea was on a veil.
It is funny how often he puts one musician in his movies. Boop. Right? But like the Meatloaf, Justin Timberlake, Dwight Yoakam.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you've got the access, you got the Rolodex, why not?
But like, is that guy in any movies, Maynard Keenan? Like,
no, but he had done videos for him.
No, I know.
Right,
and
that's the other thing.
I guess sort of spooky looking.
I guess part of it is just like a decade of Fincher working with musical artists on music videos, and he must have had some takeaway of maybe sometimes they're easier to direct than actors because they don't come in with pesky ideas or something.
And also sometimes you'd be like, this guy's a star.
Right. This guy's just playing well on camera.
You'd be like, Dave Grohl, I bet he's funny and he's down for anything.
Yeah. Dave Grohl, DTA.
Ben, you a Tool guy?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Big time in high school.
Really?
Yep.
So they passed me by. I don't know much about Tool.
No.
I know of them, obviously.
Moody, intense, heavy.
They're called Tool.
They're called Tool.
Mm-hmm. Eva, you a Tool gal?
No.
Obviously, I love Tool Time with Tim Taylor.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm a Tool man.
Yeah.
When it comes to Tim.
I know they're cool.
Are they cool, Tool?
I think so. Didn't they have a video where there's like a weird little head that goes fast?
I mean, that sounds fucking great.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
I'm seeing here Keenan made, not Keenan from Keenan Kel, Keenan from lead singer Tool.
Sure.
Keenan.
Right.
Made a cameo in an episode of Comedy Bang Bang.
Whoa.
As a fictional punk musician named Barf Edwards.
Oh, man.
Was that after you'd left?
Yeah, it must have been. Yeah. Do you know what season that is? Does it say?
It does not.
Okay. I don't think I was there for Barf Edwards.
Barf Edwards is
That's really funny.
Objectively funny name.
Another thing I read, it sort of reminds me of the Elaine May ecosystem of the film quote that we bring up a lot that was established in our Swing Shift episode. But after all this crazy stop and start production, they finally get the movie done, right? End of 2001, they cut it together. There's obviously post-production to do on this. They test screen it. The audience hates the ending because they feel too sympathetic for Forrest Whitaker and they feel bad for him.
Right.
And he goes to Sony and he's like, we need to reshoot the ending and give him a less harsh ending or a less sad ending, let's say, right? And they were like, we are not letting you rebuild this fucking set again.
Like, get the hell out of here.
It
so they
is
just
not
find
happening.
alternate takes where he looks less bummed out, right?
Maybe my interpretation of this was wrong, that they used alternate takes for the rest of the film to make him less sympathetic up until that point.
That's interesting. I think you are right.
That Forrest Whitaker is such a naturally kind of wounded actor.
Right.
That they were
He's so good at that.
Right. We have chosen the most empathetic takes for him in every moment. What we need to do, if we can't change the ending, is change the DNA of the movie up until that point to make him a little more conflicted.
Guys, in 2006, I got a job as a PA on a commercial.
Okay.
It was a commercial that aired before movies.
Okay.
It was like a turn off your phone commercial.
Big fan.
Okay, turn off your phone commercial. Okay, so it's like, hi, I'm Tom Cruise, and you better hit that red button. Yeah.
So,
back then you had to hold down the red button.
My PA job,
Eminem, please turn off your phone.
Was driving around the writer, director, and star of the commercial, Forrest Whitaker. So
an auteur?
Triple threat.
And it was very funny because the commercial was supposed to be, we were filming it in MacArthur Park. There had just been these big immigration kind of protests, and this was built around those. And the idea was that there was a protest going on, and then Forrest Whitaker gave this speech in the middle that was being translated into Spanish that was about freedom, but also turn off your phones or whatever. Listen carefully.
Sounds like a tight needle to thread, but okay.
Sure. The night before we filmed the commercial, the like phone company that was sponsoring it came to them and were like, we cannot have any political messages in this commercial.
And
This
Forrest Whitaker, a very politically outspoken man,
Yes.
very politically driven, has never pulled
But
words.
I might have told him that like Sprint's not going to go for this,
Yes.
buddy. Right? Yeah,
So
whoever it was.
What we ended up filming and what ended up airing was like just people holding up signs that just said believe in something, or just like
Wow.
maximize you or whatever.
Up with people.
Things matter.
Totally things matter. Like
Nobody's nerfing.
but I was his driver and his like kind of chaperone for 2 weeks. And he was so nice. I really, really liked him.
Shout out.
He told me some stuff about Battlefield Earth, which was
Okay.
Oh,
very
fuck,
exciting.
sure. Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
What year was this that you were doing?
2006. So this is like
Okay.
4 or 5 or
And
6 years
I
later.
know it was 2006 because the week 2 of the job, he got nominated for
Yeah.
Last King of
I was
Scotland.
about to say, it's
Yeah.
about
It
to
It's about to
happened.
thunder to an Oscar.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the other we were in because we were in MacArthur Park. Unhoused people would come up to him constantly and talk to him, and he
Yeah.
would talk to anybody. But what was the funniest thing was that they all recognized him from the movie Species,
Sure.
Yeah.
specifically.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But also a lot of them would just be like, "Hey, congratulations! I love Last King of Scotland." Like they'd seen it in the theater, and they were like
Wow.
complimentary.
And also, it's like no one looks like him. Like
Oh,
he
yeah.
must one of
No,
the most
the most
instantly
distinctive.
recognizable
Yeah.
celebrities. His gait is recognizable.
And like he has changed shape several times in his career. His weight
Sure.
has gone up and down at different times. He always is undeniably Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah, and really, like, I really got it in this movie, just like the most empathetic performer. Like, it's really
I
hard not to like him, even
love
when he's being
Forrest
a
Whitaker.
giant
Yeah.
dick. Like, his character is
Right.
making bad decisions. You're just like, oh, don't hurt him.
There is a term, right? And this is the cut of the movie where they tried to make him less empathetic.
He's
you know?
he's like so one of the emotional cores of the
But you
entire
can-
movie.
You
It's why
can
the movie
see that
works,
being a
right.
problem of like if you just pick his best take for every scene, the entire audience is going to be rooting for him to win.
Yeah.
You know, there's a term Marin always uses on WTF, and I think he got it from some actor he was interviewing years and years ago, talking about working with Gene Hackman, and they said, "What's Gene Hackman like?"
Right.
And I try to remember who the fuck it was. Maybe it's Stephen Tobolowsky or someone like that. Said like that guy knows how to fill up.
Like fill up himself or fill up the screen.
He
Fill
meant-
up
he meant fill up
himself
a car
with
with gas.
emotion.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Fill up, yeah. You know? Like just basically like before the cameras roll, you see it. The guy just fills up and suddenly it's all there. It's not him
Fuck.
playing something. It's all just
And you
in
hear
there.
this weird noise too. It's like kind of gurgling.
There's
Yeah,
a
right.
there's this moment that I watched a couple times when he's chasing down Jared Leto
Yeah.
and saying like, "I'm gonna open the room myself, and when they come for me, I'm gonna know who called." And it just
Yes.
like he's like terrifying. He's completely reasonable.
Right.
Like it's like oh
You can tell why he's panicked
Right.
Yeah.
himself, right? Like what's at stake for him.
he's like mad, but you're like he's justified.
Outside of Idi Amin, though, it's one of those weird Oscar wins where you're like, this is kind of not what he usually does, right?
Well, and it's the classic Oscar win of like at that point he's a fairly beloved sort of character actor
Yeah.
guy. He's directed movies.
Right.
Everyone likes Forrest Whitaker.
Do you know at one point he was offered this script to direct earlier before
That
Fincher
makes
came
sense,
on? Yeah.
Wow.
And like so like everyone likes him.
Yes.
But then it's like, what do you win the Oscar for? Like, doing this sort of like big, broad performance. It's an impression. It's like
quietly
a
a supporting
transformation.
performance,
kind
but
of a
it's
supporting
so colorful.
He is good in that movie.
Oh, he's fantastic.
obviously.
But I feel like usually his thing is just like, he's an actor where every time I see him on screen. Oh, no.
Uh-oh.
Ben,
There's
can we
something-
turn on the monitors?
Yeah, hold on.
The dog thieves are outside our door again.
Genuine noise outside this place.
Yeah, some
This
screaming.
is not a bit. This is 4 dogs in ski masks.
This is the same year as Phone Booth, Panic Room.
Right.
Which is another movie he's really good in as like the guy.
Okay, say fuck you.
Fuck you.
All right, great.
Love him in Phone Booth.
I was just saying that
Let me help you, Colin Farrell.
Whitaker's like the ultimate.
man, you can't help me. I'm on the phone. I can't do Colin Farrell on phone. I'm from Brooklyn.
He's like the ultimate that guy knows how to fill up actor for me, where just anytime he's on screen, you're like, outside of shit like Last King of Scotland, or sometimes the movie will give him the one big scene, and something else.
The Black Panther.
I don't think of him as being like a very demonstrative actor. He tends to whisper.
Right, he tends to be
it's
kind of
just sort of
whispery,
like,
shuffly guy.
This guy's like vibrating with emotion, right? Like this guy is just constantly sort of like on edge of something.
Looks like he's about to cry.
Yes.
Oh, he's got, he's can use his eye in a
Yes.
certain way.
Incredibly well.
He always seems incredibly smart. He's always at like the absolute height of his intelligence.
Right. And he's choosing his words very carefully, but it's like he's not doing a lot externally. It feels like it's all just kind of inside of him.
Yeah.
Favorite. I mean, Ghost Dog, I guess, is my favorite Forrest Whitaker.
He's so cool.
I love that movie.
The other thing I love about him, he like comes out of the gate. He books a couple big movies, right? He's got like The Brief Moment and Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Big scene,
He's got the great scene in Color of Money.
Great in Color of Money, great in Platoon.
Post those movies,
Good Morning
he's
Vietnam.
like, I don't think I know my craft enough. I'm going to go back, do like a conservatory. He like went back to graduate acting school, I believe, after he was already booking. And I think he says it was kind of Color of Money where he was just like, Paul Newman can do stuff that I can't.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did take a course at Drama Studio London.
Yeah.
But he's in Bird in '88, which is like he should have been nominated for an Oscar for that. He's amazing in that. I love Forrest Whitaker. He's amazing in this. The part was written as like a glib businessy guy.
Yeah.
And Fincher was like, no, it should be like a blue collar guy who installs like the panic room, not like the sort of like nerdy designer of the panic room, if that makes sense.
No. Yeah. Yes. It makes much more sense.
Yes, Fincher said, Whitaker said, yeah, I didn't find it interesting as a filmmaker when I was approached, but with Fincher like gets how to make something like this. Jared Leto is in this film. You've worked with Jared Leto.
I did not work with him directly. I wrote
on a
his
show he was on, right?
And I got a gift from him in character, a rap gift
My
from
favorite act.
Just
he sent me a gift as Adam Newman. Good gift.
thank God he did not send you a gift as the Joker.
As Joker. I got a gift from a nice character.
Right.
Yeah, that's good when it's like you got a gift from a Jared Leto character. Which one?
I will say
like,
this.
unfortunately, it's the creepy billionaire from Blade Runner. God damn it! What did he send me?
Hearing he
sent me like a fetus.
Hearing he sent gifts as Adam Newman makes me slightly less critical of the Joker gifts. Where I'm like, if he does this on every movie,
right?
It's at least a continuum.
Now, JJ says, I do not say this lightly, these are two of the greatest quotes I've ever found for this show. All right, Fincher.
Yeah.
This is about him talking about like, okay, I've cast Dwight Yoakam. That's on one sort of end of the spectrum. I've cast Forrest Whitaker. He's on the other. I turned to a CIA agent. Who can I get to be in the middle? It's got to be someone little and glib. Who has the aspiration to be Latrell Sprewell? Jared Leto, original gangster. Jared came in. He had the gold teeth. He was doing this whole rap thing. I said, I'm not sure about all this. He went away, came back with cornrows in his hair. And I thought, oh my God, this speaks to so much to him being like a wannabe hard guy, a fucking like, wannabe OG. And then he says, he was asked, like, do you think Jared's tired of like getting beaten up in your movies? Because in Fight Club as well, he gets a shit beaten out of him.
His face gets burned in both movies.
I want to destroy something beautiful. Yeah.
He says he's perfect for it, isn't he? If there's any guy whose face you want to see get burned off, it's him. He totally gets what to use him for.
It's wild that not only did Fincher have such a good understanding of Jared Leto and how to use him effectively on screen, but also such a good understanding of the audience's relationship to Jared Leto. Not just what is he good at as an actor, but also like what will people enjoy seeing him do / happen to him.
Yeah. I just had the question, and knowing that they were maybe just doing these scenes waiting for new actors to get filmed, it does seem like Jared Leto's doing more than anyone in the entire movie by
absolutely.
Everyone else is
800%.
giving pretty subtle, character-y performances, and Jared Leto is just like spitting fireballs.
I wrote down a lot of his lines.
Oh, please.
They're pretty funny. I also felt like at one point I was like, oh, is he going full Buscemi and Fargo?
I think that's his aspiration.
Yeah, is that what he thinks he's doing near the end? Because there's a thing I like when like there's certain actors who are very good at weaponizing their own beauty.
Yes.
Especially like later in life, I'm thinking like Hugh Grant is somebody who's gotten really good at knowing what was attractive about him and now making it disgusting.
I'm kind of an old right. Yeah.
He's-
So and so.
Or like Jude Law is kind of doing it in a cool way now.
Pitt got there,
but yeah,
eventually.
Pitt is very good at actually being hot in a movie and playing it like against the
as
character,
a character,
like
right,
like a Moneyball
Being
or
like,
whatever.
this thing you love about me is actually disgusting.
Right.
But Jared Leto at this moment in his career is in that moment where he's just like, I wish I was less pretty. Like,
Exactly.
Right.
He's like, I want to be Brad Pitt in 12 Monkeys. I want to be
Right.
like, I'm not Jordan Catalano.
Right.
And it seems like he's really swinging for the fences. There's a part where Forrest Whitaker says he's laughing. He says, I spent the last 12 years of my life building these rooms specifically to keep out people like us. And Leto goes, oh, it's all so ironic and amusing. And he goes, congratulations, you bought a black ski mask. You made $1 million. Your parents will be really proud.
He's, whether or not it's intended, just so perfect.
Yes.
As a guy, of course, who needs to get shot in the face in this movie.
Oh, he goes, oh, so now you're a tax attorney. I'm out of here.
But also, right, as a guy who's like, yeah, I know how to do a robbery. You know, like where you're like, you don't know anything. You were an idiot.
But like Dwight Yoakam
But the swagger of him in this movie is so important.
Dwight Yoakam is genuinely scary in this film, right?
So scary.
Forrest Whitaker is such a well of emotion. You need the guy who's just a piece of shit.
Absolute
and is
piece
an
of shit.
entertaining piece of shit. Like this movie,
It's the classic Hitchcocky thing,
Right.
or any of these crime movies.
would
It's
just
like,
become unbearably grim.
the characters need to be completely different, have different
Right.
motivations, different levels of like morality.
And like Kidman is, I imagine, would have played this more icy to Jodie Foster steely. But like in either conception of the film, you need one guy to be this.
Yeah.
And it does feel like I agree with you that he's, I'm gonna anonymize this story. There was an actor I hung out with a couple times who was a sort of 2010s attempt at a leading man.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
A sort of pretty boy guy who was slotting into the lead role or the romantic lead in a couple films and had a hot streak, and it had sort of ended. And it was maybe my first time meeting this guy. He was dating a friend of mine, and he like drunkenly ranted to me he just went like, your career's gonna be so much fucking better than mine. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was just like, I thought I was like fucking hot shit. And all my like weirdo, funny looking actor friends are all now running laps around me. And was just sort of like John Magaro and Rami Malek and all these guys who were uncastable for so long. And now everyone thinks that they're brilliant, you know?
This guy sounds like just fun.
Piece of shit guy.
I'm sure you're like, I'm glad my friend's dating this guy. and he
Absolute
talks
piece of
like
shit
this.
guy. I'm so glad she got out of that. But I can imagine Jared Leto watching Fargo and having the same feeling, you know?
Totally.
Where he's just like, I wish I could just fucking do that.
I'm like cursed with my looks.
Yes.
My beautiful eyes.
I mean, because at this point, like his whole career, obviously, yes, he breaks out playing Jordan Catalano on My So-Called Life, and he was, all the girls loved him. And then he's in stuff like How to Make an American Quilt, like where it's like, do that, right? Like
he does Prefontaine or Without
Prefontaine,
Limits. Yeah.
Prefontaine. But Urban Legend, he's like one of the guys who's like, oh guys, there's an urban legend.
Right.
But then it's like Black and White, Fight Club, Girl Interrupted, American Psycho, Requiem for a Dream, Highway, Panic Room,
so
Phone
he's
Booth.
done Requiem for a Dream at this point.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So he's really he's just like, make me weird and gross.
Right. I need to be strung out and weird. I need to have these parts that are very like big and demanding.
I need so much to do.
Right. A lot of business.
But then
obviously,
also-
it goes all the way to chapter 27 where it's like, Jared, no one's going to see this movie. And he's just like, I will gain as much weight as I can.
I've invoked this multiple times, but he literally would buy pints of Ben and Jerry's, put them in the microwave, melt them, and chug them.
Is it him playing
the killer
Mark
John
David
Lennon.
Chapman?
Yes. And he developed gout doing this, and the movie basically was released in 2 theaters.
Right. Because it was a bad movie. No one wanted to see it.
It was 18 months of wind-up of like, holy shit, he's going to go fucking full raging bull. The lengths he's going to for this performance. And you were like, why would you do this for this script in this part that no one wants to see?
Right.
And then that's when he takes like a long break where he doesn't really do a movie
He
again
starts
until Dallas
being a
Buyers
musician
Club,
and stuff, right?
which, thank God, what a cultural gain.
When did the band start?
Like 30 Seconds to Mars releases their first album in 2002. So the same year as this. But I feel like they really do sort of take off more in the late 2000s.
Chapter 27 comes out 2007, and that's when he's just like, I'm retired from acting. I'm full-time musician.
When's Dallas Buyers Club?
That's
2013.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's his comeback.
There's basically a
First-
5-year gap.
My first date with Forky.
Really?
Wait, have I never told you that before on this podcast?
Dallas Buyers
remember.
Club.
I know. What an insane choice.
I know.
We
And
were
it-
just like,
and
wait,
it
let's
worked.
see
You got
a
married
movie.
and had a child?
That movie literally begins with Matthew McConaughey having rough sex, and then next scene, you have AIDS.
I can't believe you guys, and I hate to be crass here, ever had sex if that was the way you met.
And yet, but no, I think it was just it was Oscar season. It was like the winter of 2013. We were like, let's see a movie.
Well, and if you're going on a date and she suggests a movie, you're like, well, here's what I need to see to get through the Oscar season. You have a checklist.
But I think it was also it was like between like 12 Years a Slave and Dallas, but like there were not
Better
a lot of
pick.
like romantic movies out
No,
there.
no.
Yeah, absolute dog shit movie in my opinion.
David,
Yeah.
I used to have a very simple strategy for how I went about living my life.
Yeah.
Be a fool.
Okay.
I thought it would pay off
Okay.
wildly
How'd it go?
to be an inexperienced, unequipped, ill-prepared fool.
You're
Okay.
talking about this in the past tense.
Well, because I changed to the mindset of a master.
What happened?
I took some master classes from Masterclass, our
Wow.
sponsor Masterclass,
Oh boy.
and they taught me how to be smart and how to know what you are doing in various different fields.
Because look, Masterclass, I feel like people initially thought of Masterclass. It's like, oh, you watch Martin Scorsese talk about movie
Which
making.
I love
Very
doing. I want to make
interesting.
it clear, I love doing that.
But now they have all kinds of other, like, sort of more like honed stuff as well.
Sure.
You know, I'm looking at their page right now, like, you know, build your own startup, style your own hair for any occasion, like design a space you love. Like it's, you know, you're working with experts in their fields, figuring out specific tasks you might want to perfect or gain some confidence in.
Now, that having been said, you listen to this podcast, you listen to Blank Check, you might be interested in listening to, watching Werner Herzog teaches filmmaking. 6 hours, 6 minutes of that guy going off.
Probably pretty good.
The Scorsese one is incredible. Ron Howard one is like really kind of effectively practical, unsurprisingly.
I mean,
It's
that's
just
what he's
like
good at,
really
right?
good meat and potatoes. Here's how filmmaking works. Helen Mirren and Samuel Jackson both have incredibly good ones on acting.
Ooh.
Samuel Jackson in particular, his is like very much how to have a career as an actor,
Be Samuel L. Jackson.
Yes.
I'm joking.
which is very hard to do. No, but he's like he's not just talking about like the craft of acting, but he's talking about like how you like structure a day as an actor,
I love that kind of
how
stuff.
you work on a set.
The classic Sidney Lumet, just like
It's the
remember to eat a
stuff-
banana.
Right,
you
that
know.
I say like no acting program teaches. If that's a thing you're interested in, I highly recommend watching that.
Master class. Look, the thing about them is they've got all kinds of stuff. You know, you can watch them on TV. You
Got a lot
can
of
listen to them in
masters.
audio mode.
Sure.
Use the app.
Mm-hmm.
Quality speaks for itself.
Of course.
Membership start at $120 a year for unlimited access to one-on-one classes with all 180 instructors.
A lot. And they're long. These are long.
Yeah, and there's new classes added every month.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you've got, like I said, you got, you know, Melody Hobson on strategic decision making. I'm looking at some of the new ones. Noam Chomsky on independent thinking and media's invisible powers.
Mm-hmm.
You can pull from like any sort of like field or world
Right.
or way of thinking.
But then there's also just like 7 hours on how to barbecue correctly.
Well-
you know, sometimes, yeah.
You got to cook it low and slow. Okay.
You have to cook it low and slow.
All right. Right now, our listeners will get an additional 15% off an annual membership at masterclass.com/check.
That's not nothing.
Get 15% off right now at masterclass.com/check. Masterclass.com/check.
Stop being a fool. Become a master. Eva,
Yes.
We Crashed, the show you wrote for
Yes.
that Jared Leto was on,
Yes.
was a pretty deep COVID production, right? Where you were not on set at all. That was a COVID
Yeah,
Zoom room.
It was shot at COVID Zoom room
Yeah.
and then shot in New York. And
Yes.
so only we had one writer who lived in New York
okay.
and she visited set once. And she was the one, Eleanor, who told me that the present was from Jared Leto.
Gotcha.
Because it was like, I didn't even meet the showrunners
Yeah.
until the premiere. I
No.
didn't see anyone in person until the premiere.
Right.
Especially because of COVID. Right?
Yeah, especially- yeah.
Did you hear anything? Was anything relayed to you? Because like Adam Newman is a goofier character than he usually plays. of what his behavior was like on set. Because the thing that surprised me watching this fucking voluminous special features set where there was just like a very long video of the making of Panic Room. That's not even structured like a documentary. It's basically almost like a travelogue. You're sort of seeing like just extended clips of footage of them working out shit. He's just doing bits the whole fucking time. He's not doing any methody shit.
Oh, weird.
It's just him like fucking with Fincher. And like going up to the camera and talking to the camera as if it's MTV Cribs when everyone else is just sort of treating it as like fly on the wall.
I wonder when he got into method, because the one thing I do know about set is that he stayed in character the entire shoot.
Yeah.
As Adam Newman, which was a multi-month Adam Newman experience.
He actually went out of business himself.
He bankrupted himself.
Right.
Yes. He crashed.
He would keep his Israeli accent.
Yeah.
Year round.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just so surprised watching this where it truly just had the energy of like just a dude with too much energy. Like on set, just trying to get attention, but not with the self-serious actory thing.
Well, when did he switch over? Was it Dallas Buyers Club? Was it earlier? Did he have a guru that was like, you must do this?
Right.
I don't know. But I think it's like when Dallas Buyers Club came out and he was like, yeah, I'm a method guy. Like, this is what I do. I've always been doing it. And I guess he'd done things like Chapter 26.
Sure.
He'd always been doing it.
But then he does
in
it with
his mind.
Morbius. He does it with everything now.
But then it became part of the press cycle in a way. I think where now also journalists are like, so what'd you do this time, Jared? Tell us.
Do you think he was like
brain.
not Blade Runner? He was like eyes closed, like
I
knocking
think
into
he
things.
did literally wear contact lenses that made him blind and stuff like that for Blade Runner.
Yes, he did.
He did.
People had to like lead into the bathroom.
And like, it is crazy.
It's always bathroom. It always just has
It's
to
always
gets after the
bathroom shit.
bathroom.
It's always
stuff.
bathroom
It's
shit
like
with
bathroom
him.
too slow.
Yes.
Israeli bathroom.
You have these guys like Fincher
Blood
and
bathroom.
Villeneuve, like these great directors who
Dr.
work
Michael
with him.
Morbius, yes.
And I feel like Villeneuve was like, yeah, he's such a committed guy. You got, they always talk about him in this way where it sounds like they're talking about like a special student at school. But like, he really is trying. It's really like you got to respect the effort off this guy, right?
But the dynamic on this on the video
Fincher
I
gets
was
it with
watching
him, right? Yeah,
was
like,
also like it was like Leto is his annoying younger brother.
right.
And he's just going like, I double doggy dare you to do this. And Leto be like, absolutely, fucking set me on fire. Like they're showing the video of him like testing being set on fire over and over again. He's like, this is fun, let's fucking do it again.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We should talk about the plot of Panic Room. We really have to. Okay. Meg Altman and Sarah, her daughter.
Yes.
She's 11 years old.
Uh-huh.
Meg is not. Meg is older than that. They move into an insane building on the Upper West Side.
A townstone.
A townstone, sure.
As
a
Ian
big
Buchanan
4-story
says.
townhouse.
Yeah.
That has a panic room in it. The first scene of this movie. Who plays the real estate agent?
It's Ian Magnuson.
Yes, right.
Who's the man?
It's Ian Buchanan, who
He's
was
so fun.
a soap opera star.
That's who I was trying. That's who
And
I
then
couldn't
he
remember.
was on It's Gary Shandling show.
Okay.
He is
He's done
fucking
a number of other
great.
shit. I love him. I think he is incredible.
That first scene sets a tone that is not the movie of extreme camp.
Yes.
It is kind of campy, but although it's very, I feel like, accurate to the experience of high-end Manhattan real estate then, especially, but even now. But I also just love it as he was like, let me show you around the set of this movie.
Yes.
So you understand how it works.
And Magnuson was sort of like the original Mary Lynn Roscoe, where she was like a weirdo East Village performance artist who then started working as sort of like a comedic character actress.
She's like a Joe's Pub person, kind of, right?
Yes. And then Ian Buchanan was like comically handsome, suave soap opera star.
Hello.
Yes, who was a bit of a phenomenon. And then I think within soap opera fandom.
Right.
And then Gary Shandling sort of like reclaimed him and is like, do you want to like poke fun of your own image? Just like heighten it 10%. And then after that, he did On the Air, the weird David Lynch sitcom.
Oh, sure.
Ooh.
But he does a lot of stuff like this now where he sort of does the camp version of the way he looks and sounds.
Yeah, right. I mean, he's perfect for this.
Yes.
This scene. But I just love also, it's kind of like you're getting cranked up on a roller coaster. You're going up the,
David, that is the exact analogy for this movie. I was going to say.
Well, I fucking got there first.
A movie like this, even
it's
more
like it's
so
going to be all thrills.
than like a straight horror movie,
Right.
a real capital T thriller, right? As a kid, and it's 13, I'm still a kid when I see this movie in theaters. It stressed me out, freaked me out more than anything, where the premise of the movie is like, a thing is going to go wrong and you're just stuck in it until it's resolved. Right? Like something like U571 I walked out of because it stressed me out too much.
It's a little stressful.
And it's going to happen the first night. It's going to happen the second the sun goes down. It's like The Mist.
Absolutely. And so like this first like 15 minutes of the movie, I'm enjoying it. I like that there are jokes and everything, but I'm also just like gripping the armrest because it's like, it's too late to get off the roller coaster now. It's cranking up and then it's going to start and it won't stop until it's over.
It's funny that the only things they tell you about the panic room are things that don't help.
Yes.
They're like, this has got a separate phone line.
Right.
Unless you don't hook that up.
There's the laser for the door,
which
like an elevator.
Doesn't work.
No, it doesn't.
I had to go back and watch to be like, they make a big point of this laser being important, but I guess his hand isn't near the laser.
It's poorly designed. There should be more than 2 lasers. Because yes, that means the door can't smush your entire body.
Yeah.
But if you have a hand out and it's not above or at the floor, you're gonna get smushed.
But it's such a Hitchcocky thing of like what he really wants to do here is like put some comedy in it, put 2 characters in who are very different tone, 2 performances that are very different pitch than the rest of the movie, but really just like lure you in, entertain you enough while like unconsciously loading the entire architecture and layout of this place into your head, right?
Right.
Like this whole sequence is like, you need to understand spatially everything going on in this house now. Not just the room.
You need to get how it's going to work, but it's also, it's just a nice little sort of mood.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone be calm. Don't worry. Like things are, and then it's like.
And Fincher's deep in his like antiseptic sort of like, finding color palettes that actually make you uncomfortable. Right? He's still shooting on film at this point, but he uses like a ton of fluorescent lighting. Yeah.
My first impression of this was like, oh, every movie will end up looking like this movie that he makes. Like he'll make 8 more movies that look like this or whatever. Like not 8, but like it looks like Gone Girl.
Yeah.
Yes. And I just, he's like, they can't move in. They'll move in, but like they can't actually change how this place looks. Like it needs to be this.
This is what it is.
Desolate.
Yes.
Empty. The kid and the mom are still unsettled. And so when they get broken into, like it's not even their home yet. Really.
Yeah.
Is the panic room full of the old man's survival kits?
Yes. They've like done nothing with the panic room.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there's more in there.
Here's my big question.
Sure.
Would you buy? Let's say money's no object.
Sure.
Would the panic room be a selling point or a flat no? Here's this building. Oh, it's cool. It's nice. It's got all the bedrooms you want. It does have this panic room. Are you like, great, I want to buy it because it has a panic room.
If it's panic room versus washer dryer, I pick the place with the washer dryer.
It has everything else.
I do think the panic room's a fun bonus.
I think it would spook me out too much.
I think if it's not an upcharge, it's a fun bonus.
You don't have to make it a panic room. It could be a wine cellar.
But it's got like the
security system.
You have some really nice wine.
Yeah, you can make it a podcast studio. It just still would have a crazy fucking door.
I think I would be spooked. I don't like it. And then I would worry about my kid like playing in the panic room.
Well,
or
sure,
whatever,
that's the other
as well.
thing.
Like,
You have a little kid.
Right.
I have a teenager.
And
the teenager would want to hang out in the panic room.
Your teenager would probably be like, I'm going to be in the panic room. I'll see you in 4 days.
It's fucking Kristen Stewart's joke. She goes, my room.
Yeah,
Definitely my
exactly.
room.
Yeah.
First night in the house, they go to sleep. They go to Betty Buys.
Can we just say, quickly,
Yes.
sorry, just Darius Kanji was hired as the DP on this movie.
He was.
Who Fincher had worked with. And
Great
then
DP.
like in the early days before even Kidman's injury, he is no longer on the movie. And there are sort of conflicting stories about whether he quit or was fired.
He was fired.
There was
Or he quit. They fought constantly.
high tension, but I think a lot of it was that Fincher was like coming in with this previs thing, and he's like, do exactly this. Do exactly this with like, I don't want any sort of new ideas on set.
Right.
Well, a terrible situation for a DP. For
Absolutely.
an artistic DP.
And Conrad W. Hall,
Yep. The son of Conrad H. Hall.
legendary Conrad H. Hall cinematographer who had just passed away,
Mhm.
and does not have a ton of credits as DP, and this was his first, I believe.
This is his first.
He was a big camera team guy.
Shot Olympus Has Fallen, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Fincher just says, you know what? Here, you rise to the top.
To be clear, he'd been a camera operator on
had
Seven and Fight Club and
a
all
large
that, right?
career, but had not been the main DP.
No.
And was just like,
he's
here you
doing
go.
what he's told.
Here's the model. Do what you told.
Yeah.
Which the movie looks great, but it does speak to the fact that Fincher just planned it out and said, I want you to just follow this path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, for sure. And Kanji never works with Fincher again, obviously.
The funniest thing is they had done all this previs. They'd worked all this out. They had like fucking computer-controlled cameras and all this sort of shit. But, of course, there is this massive shift where there is a full height difference between Nicole Kidman and Jodie Foster, and everything they planned didn't work.
Oh, Jodie Foster's little.
Yes.
Oh.
Nicole Kidman is like close to 6 feet tall.
David size.
Jodie Foster is 5'3",
Griffin size.
listed.
That's wild.
Yes.
So
they were like, Conrad Hall would just put it up exactly as they prevised it, and it would be Jodie Foster, the very top of her head at the bottom of the frame.
her little eyes, like that's
right.
The whole frame.
And it had all been precision timed so directly that they couldn't just like, we'll just lower the camera and all of this. They ended up building a box that was the exact height difference between the two of them that I think they called the Nicole box.
There you go.
That just made Jodie Foster Nicole size.
That's crazy.
Isn't that wild?
Crazy. So you have this wonderful break-in thing where the burglars walk in very casually.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just sort of stalking around, and you've got that shot. I feel like it was in the trailer, right?
Probably.
The
Jodie
mug?
sleeping.
Oh yeah. Oh, it turns
where the
vertical.
camera
It's the
turns
poster.
vertical. Obviously, it's the poster.
Yeah.
But I feel like but it's such an incredible, great, because it's not even when she realizes something is going on.
Yes.
It's sort of when we realize
It's dread, right?
the dread, exactly. Like just like the guy behind her and then walking away.
But yes, you have the shot, like him really pioneering like CGI assisted cinematography.
Right.
Of like the camera's going to do things it can't do. It's going to go between the slats of the chair and the handle of the coffee maker and into the keyhole to see the key going through the cylinders and undoing the lock.
And
how and why do these guys have a key?
With Junior, of course.
Exactly.
love that we don't really learn. It's like, she figures out what's going on. She gets her kid to go in the panic room.
Yeah,
okay, movie is
immediately.
set with them in the panic
Right.
room.
They think they're safe. In fact, it is the problem. The stuff that the robbers
What they
want is in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Feel like we learn about Forrest Whitaker's character first because
Mhm.
he's like I know how panic rooms work. I design panic rooms. Okay, he's the inside man. Then we learn about Jared Leto like way later.
Sure.
Like we don't really get who he is for an hour.
No, other than that he's the motor mouth.
He shouldn't be here. He knows a lot about the family and escrow.
Right. It was
and-
his idea.
Right.
But also,
Raul, of course, we never learn anything about,
No.
except that he's a scary motherfucker from Flatbush.
no,
He's
until
unknowable.
bus
Paterno
driver.
yells, "What? You're a bus driver, Raul. You live in Flatbush."
Yes.
So don't start spouting some Elmore Leonard bullshit because I saw that movie too. That is, he could have said James Elroy, but that was his friend, so he said Elmore Leonard.
There you go.
Oh,
right.
that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, just quick, I'm not like a plot hole person, but
Mhm.
it is interesting to think about how it's not her stuff in the panic room.
Like, could she just be like, "What do you want, guys?"
Yeah, they're like,
I'll
the
get
stuff
it
we
for
want in
you.
the room. We'll let you go. Well, she should just let them in the panic room. If
But
they're in masks.
I don't think that's a plot hole. I think she doesn't know what what's
I don't think
going
it's a plot
on.
hole, but
right.
it's funny to think about at that point. There's absolutely no reason for her to be like, all this stuff in the panic room's mine.
But the ultimate irony is they are like, we're on camera, so we're fucked. And
Right.
of course, they are actually not on camera.
Yes.
And like that's a whole moment near the end of the movie when Forrest Whitaker goes to get the tapes, and there are no tapes. And it's like, you actually could have walked out of here without any of this happening.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Right? Like, you could have walked in and been like, fuck, there's a family in here now. We messed up. Like, forget it.
But I also think like her not just letting them in and letting it escalate speaks to the Fincher thing of like, this movie is really about divorce.
Right.
It is about being in a state where you're just like, I feel so unmoored and destabilized.
I can't protect my kid from
Right.
anything.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
not
I
gonna
don't
let this
I don't
happen
know
now.
how to
Right.
identify what the threat
And
is
we're
and what the right way around it.
Right.
I don't think it's a plot hole that she's not making the absolute best possible
But
decision
right.
ever, but she's a human being.
If they
Yes.
could talk to each other, like actually talk to each other,
Yes.
yeah, this might go differently.
He's like,
Yeah.
there's a safe in the panic room. We just want to get in there.
Right.
You can leave just walk out right now. And
Well,
Right.
and if anything, it's what's what's interesting about this movie is like, and it's the difference between having Foster and Kidman is like Foster never projects anything less than 100% competency and certainty.
Right.
And so even if the reasoning is this character is sort of like a little bit emotionally flipped at this moment, you do a close-up of Jodie Foster and her eyes just staring at something and you're like, she's going to figure this out.
Right.
She has 10 million.
She feels very resourceful.
She's a computer.
Yes, she looks like a computer.
Would you design your panic room to maybe allow a phone signal in if you have your cell phone? I do feel like that's a design flaw.
Yeah, but
I guess the
when was
idea is
this
she's
built?
supposed to have set up the phone line and she just hasn't done it yet.
There's that.
Yeah,
Right.
it's a steel box.
It's a steel box.
But also,
Why does it have a hole
Yeah.
that goes to the courtyard?
Yeah, why does it have an air hole?
Yeah. Because if this is for a nuclear disaster, a hole to the courtyard.
right. This feels like
The air hole, it's like, I guess, right, you just sort of have, I mean, I don't know.
It's mousetrap. They're just trying
You
to
have
build
to have a
shit
moment
into
where-
the,
right.
It feels like this is a home invasion only panic room.
Yeah,
Right.
yes.
But there
It
is that moment where
yes.
he's like, home invasion's on the rise. I'm like, I don't know, man. That's pretty specific. Like, there's a lot of shit I'm worried about.
But then they're like, but with this guy's family, no wonder. So he's building a panic room from Junior. He's building a
Yes.
junior
Yes.
panic room.
Yes.
Right. No, I mean, it makes sense.
Specifically, It's a Leto proof.
Like, this was a paranoid guy.
Yes.
So, and he had enough money that he could just throw money at a panic room.
Mhm.
Me, yeah, maybe. A TV room. Billiard room.
A rumpus room.
Play billiards.
Yeah.
Right?
A man cave.
Yeah, and at least if you're going to make a panic room, put, I don't know, some shit on the walls. Like, it's
Shit.
a little...
Blacklight posters.
Yeah, it's a little bleak in there.
Yeah.
Hang in there, kitty poster.
That would
Yeah.
be good. Well, they need that advice. in
Yeah.
this
Ben, I
movie.
feel like you would have a really good panic room.
Oh yeah, I would really have fun with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost surprising that Ben hasn't lived in a panic room before. That there was no period of your
they're
life
like,
where
so
you were
there's
just
no window.
subletting.
It's not technically a bedroom. It's actually technically a panic room.
A
course
lot of the
our
rooms
office-
I've lived in, I've
Yeah,
had
have-
panic. I've
oh,
experienced
sure.
panic.
I mean,
we
turn
technically
every
made
room
this-
I'm in a panic room. Of
Our
course.
first podcast studio was a panic room. I guess this is. Oh yeah, that's the
Yeah,
bit
but
we were
canonically,
doing.
this is a panic room. Right?
Well,
Of course, the dogs
depends
are
on how
outside.
much
It's
of
working
that
well.
we're gonna leave in.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Yeah.
So I guess the first chunk of action now is,
Mhm.
everyone knows where everyone is,
Mhm.
and it sort of concludes with the gas attack, right? Like it's sort of them
Yeah.
trying to figure out how to get in.
Right. And yes, it's like the other thing with this movie is like it's like Fincher doing Home Alone, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're just like, what are they going to try to do, and how are they going to retaliate?
It is the
You're-
most Home Alone-y moment.
Yeah,
Is
yes.
with Leto with his face up like Sylvester the cat or
Yes.
something pressed. He's Daffy Duck with his face pressed to the wall.
But it's like 20 minutes of just like kind of stretching the rubber band for like, when is the first hijink going to happen?
His beak ends up on the back of his head.
Obviously, the
His head turns into a pile of ash, slowly dissipates.
I mean, that should have happened,
Yeah.
actually. His arm, or at least, is like, he's like, wait, and then he moves.
I wanted all
and
of his
it's-
cornrows to be flipped out,
That would be
and-
great.
Fuck, that
you
would be
know,
funny, kind of.
pointed in different directions.
Like Al
Beak back
Yankovic.
at the head is one of my favorite things in the fucking world,
I
where you
know.
just go like, so wait, is the logic that his head is just a perfect sphere, and then his beak contains all of his mouth?
It doesn't matter where the beak is.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no hole that it
Right.
leads to.
There's no throat, right?
So okay. Yeah. Well, all right. So they do the gas thing. So I'm watching this with Forky. She's never seen
Mhm.
this movie.
And you were saying it's one of those things where she was like, "What are you watching?" I'm gonna.
I don't want. That sounds
Yeah,
scary. I
right.
don't want to watch that. A kid's in peril, and I'm like, everyone's gonna be okay.
Mhm.
And she puts her phone down 10 minutes and is like, what's gonna happen next? Like it does grab you.
Yeah.
This movie pretty quickly. But the gas moment definitely is a moment where when Jodie sort of goes quickly to like, put that blanket on. I'm gonna try something with the
Yeah.
lighter. You're like, wait.
Well, and Fincher,
I would never do that.
Fincher just makes all of this shit gnarlier than most directors
Yes.
would, without being like goofy gore fest gnarly.
Right.
Fire is my phobia. It's my
Fire-
irrational phobia.
Fire sucks.
I was
It
gonna
does suck.
say pretty rational
Yeah.
phobia.
But I mean, just I have an irrational fear of it.
You think like there's fire around every corner.
Fire
Mhm.
burns us.
You sound like the water people in the town of Element City. Stars of Pixar's hit new film Elemental.
And of course, in Element City, that's racist.
Racist! You're
to
racist,
think
Eva.
that. Because fire is a race.
They're upsetting citizens. All they want to do is run bodegas, Eva.
Guys,
Don't hate them. It's a perfect movie.
I will say just the fire going up to the ceiling, collecting, and then sucked through the vents was extremely awesome.
It's so well done. The fact that it's blue as it should be, like it's propane fire.
Yeah.
And then like the weird surreality of like Leto is like on blue fire and like rolling around is so cool.
Yeah.
I would not do that though. That's the point at which I'm like, open room? Come on in, guys.
Yeah.
Like, whatever you want. You know.
Watching all the flame tests with Leto, there's the guy who's like taking him through them, and it's like they have him wearing like 87 layers and then put the gel on top, and he has a ski mask, but it's not like a ski mask like this. It's like a fireproof ski mask. And then they slowly start removing the layers to get him comfortable with it being more direct, but obviously still insulated. And Leto's doing like a ton of business. And they basically have to explain to him, like, if you actually catch on fire, you don't really process it for a moment.
Right.
Like, unless your entire body is engulfed in flames immediately, you're not going to feel it in the same way. You're not going to see it in the same way until it starts to burn through. And then you fucking lose your mind.
Right.
Yeah.
In Chris Angel's show, A Mystica, which closed
Thank
last
God
year,
you invoked this.
he there's a man who just one of the tricks is just a man gets lit on fire in a heavy suit with a mask, and he just walks in slow circles on stage.
Now, see, I would say that's not a trick.
I mean, they say it is.
It's a gimmick.
I just Googled Chris Angel and Mystica. This is one of the least appealing posters for a show I have ever seen.
Yeah.
Every single part of it looks bad.
Is the man on fire on the poster?
Oh, he sure is. That's one of the better looking parts of it, though. That actually looks all right.
Is that the perfect role for Jared Leto? Chris Angel biopic?
Oh, totally.
My God,
but like, what is this other stuff? I mean, Jesus Christ.
If Jared Leto plays Chris Angel, I will personally hand him the second Oscar.
Don't you even dare.
There's a contortionist, and there's this guy named Mike Hammer who does kind of like body deeply offensive comedy through most of the show.
Oh, good.
Who plays him?
Ooh,
Joe Rogan.
He's just asking questions.
Just would like to point out Chris Angel's Instagram related accounts #1 hit Jared Leto.
Wow.
Instagram's just kind of like, I don't know, the algorithm keeps spitting Jared Leto out.
What is Mike Hammer's vibe? Who would you cast as him?
He's really unappealing white guy.
Okay.
He does a lot of anti-Asian jokes. He does some prop comedy.
Does he have a haircut?
Half of LA's comedians.
Does he sell boner pills?
He's oily and blonde. I'm trying to think. I don't know.
Maybe Jared Leto plays him too?
Maybe he plays both. Yeah, it's like Hammer and he plays everyone.
Yeah, it sounds like a good movie.
Wow, that's such a good idea.
I'm just looking at Chris Angel. It wasn't Jim Carrey played a Chris Angel type in the Burt Wonderstone movie, right? Like that's the joke.
Yeah, but he didn't go full. He was a little less. What would I say? He just played the braggadocio.
Another thing I want to say.
Yeah.
This is a thought. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, which we saw last night.
Yes.
At this point will have come out months ago.
Fucking owns bones.
Kind of a David Copperfield vibe sometimes to the costuming.
Yes.
Big, kind of flowy, white button downs.
Yeah.
Pom Klementieff, however you say her name, Clementieff's character has this sort of like, very magic show like vibe to her.
The vest budget on this movie must have been insane, and there is a lot of sleight of hand.
Yes, and but in the first movie it is established Ethan Hunt knows sleight of hand,
right?
And so he brings that back.
And Haley Atwell's character in this is a pickpocket, and there's just a runner throughout the entire film of them like picking or dropping things off and doing it like
the
transferring
thing where you
kind of
go like
on camera,
and then it's in your hand.
So are we
whatever that is?
Are we pitching a Tom Cruise Copperfield movie that opens the same weekend as a Chris Angel Leto movie?
We're pitching a magic verse.
A magic verse.
Yes.
I mean, Cruise is probably the same age as Copperfield. They're both probably in their early 60s, right?
Chris? Or Cruise?
No, Cruise.
Yeah,
Cruise.
I think Leto and Angel are
Copperfield
the same
has
age
6
too.
years on Cruise.
Okay. So Cruise is
they're...
Copperfield. Leto is Chris. Who plays Houdini?
Oh, we're just doing it all?
Magic Origins.
I don't know. All right, back to Panic Room.
Okay.
Russell Crowe.
Perfect. Nailed it. And he's the Nick
Houdini.
Fury of the universe.
He's like, I have sort of an idea on Houdini. He's Houdini, but he just ate a lot of food.
Yeah.
He's hungry.
He likes roast beef and has an accent.
And was Houdini Greek? Like, no, Russell. I think he was. Look at here. Have you seen? I watched Pope's Exorcist.
Oh yeah,
It's pretty good.
yeah.
Pretty good.
Exorcist?
Pope's Exorcist.
The Pope's Exorcist.
Russell Crowe is like, he plays the guy who's like, I'm the exorcist. Not a lot of people like me. The Pope likes me, though.
Right. He does not exorcise the Pope. He is the guy the Pope calls when he needs an exorcism done to someone else, but the Pope does not appear in the movie.
No, the Pope. Franco Nero plays the Pope.
Oh.
Big scene.
Okay.
No, the idea is that there are like cardinals who are like, you must stop. You do so many exorcisms. Like, this is not the Catholic Church doesn't want to do this anymore. And you, as the viewer, are supposed to be like, he gets results, you stupid cardinals. Like, that's why he's the Pope's exorcist.
It's like Sully.
Yeah. And then the
But
Pope
for an
calls him
exorcism.
in and he's like, I need you to, this is very bad. Oh, you got to do this exorcism for me.
Who is the subject?
Oh, it's like some girl who's
Some girl.
possessed.
Some teen
The idea of
girl.
the movie, which is actually clever, is that the Spanish Inquisition happened because the devil took over the Catholic Church for a bit there and started doing really bad stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's related to that.
Yeah, and that's also what happened the other times the Catholic Church did bad
Damn
shit.
devil! Let me get rid of him, though.
Yeah, now he's gone now.
Yeah, it's complete bonkers nonsense.
I want to
it's
see. That
pretty
sounds
fun, though.
good.
It's good.
Yeah.
And it's Russell Crowe. Again, with his take on like, the Exorcist, though. He likes submarine sandwiches, right?
Do you remember that scene in Spotlight where Mark Ruffalo interviews the devil?
No. What?
And he's like, so you were behind this the whole time? What are you
You're behind. Why you do it? Why you do it?
You know! And you let it
He had a
happen!
pointy tail and a pitchfork.
Don't do it anymore.
His hopes were on fire.
And then Liev Schreiber's like, this is good reporting.
This is good
This is a great interview.
Yeah. Horns,
This
you say.
very good
Little
work.
pointy Van Dyke beard.
This will go on
This is
A3.
good. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
eight
Yes.
inches for this one.
Yes.
Okay, so they try and
Goat
set her on
legs.
fire. She sets them on fire back.
Oof.
Yeah,
Okay.
smart. Which is, look, fight fire with fire. We all know this.
Well, no,
Um,
they try to gas her out.
They try to gas her out, I guess.
They're
but
not
still.
trying to light her on fire.
They're not trying
Because
to
she-
gaslight her either.
No.
They're trying
Just
to-
straight gassing her.
And she's straight lighting.
Yeah.
And it is one of the, like, God bless Forrest Whitaker, who's like, I don't want to kill anyone. He is the one who starts pumping in gas. And then he's like, but not too much gas.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's a pretty fine point on this. They're in an enclosed space.
This was
Any gas
It's going to be one of
is
the alt
not
takes
good.
where it was his idea.
Right.
I
right.
think this was an early source of tension with Fincher and Darius Kanji before they finally split ways. But Fincher was like, from the moment that Jodie Foster and Kristen Stewart go to sleep, I want 20 minutes of the movie to basically be pitch black. Where they're
like no
just
light at all.
lit by the moon through windows.
Okay.
And everyone was like, that is too annoying.
right.
Like, people are gonna fucking protest. But he still did, like, basically say, like, I think if you stay dark for most of it, the audience's eyes will adjust rather than making it darker at one point and then taking cheats at other scenes and whatever. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Eventually, she rips out the phone lines, the main phone line.
At first, she goes and gets her cell phone, which doesn't work.
Right. She grabs
Which
the
is-
cell phone.
It's only
doesn't work.
it's at that silent sequence. The only point of which is to remind her that there's a phone.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
It's
So
when
she
they're
gets-
arguing downstairs, she sort of like has enough time to zip out.
but does
look
she
for the
ever?
phone.
She doesn't use the phone for anything.
No, but then she realizes she can plug the main phone, like the panic room phone, into the main line.
It's like
Uh-huh.
phone.
Calls her husband. Phone. What else is a phone? That's a phone.
Right.
Calls her husband and is like, "You gotta come get me. I'm in the panic room." And then they cut the
But
line.
before that, she has to yell at his new wife and go, "Put him on, bitch."
And who plays his new wife?
Nicole Kidman.
She did.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think it's very funny as a stepmom of a teenager.
Humble brag.
Humble brag. I think it's very funny to think like if I had to call my husband's ex-wife like for something that I would just be like, "Hey, we've been kidnapped. Can you help?" Like that she has to be like, "I need to talk to my husband. Put him on." Like that she can't. She has such a bad relationship with this woman that she can't be
Yes.
like, "We have been kidnapped."
Yes.
Yeah. Also, I would call 911.
Right.
Right. That would be my
First call.
telephone call.
Yeah.
Right?
Easy
Yes.
to remember
That's
number.
the call she makes.
She does. They put her on hold.
They put her on hold?
Correct, which is insane. That she's like, oh my God, I have to, is this an emergency? Calls 911. They're like, get on hold. And then she calls.
How did I miss that?
She calls the husband. The mom.
Then she calls the husband.
Nicole gives
Okay.
like, what time is it?
It's
She's
kind
like,
of a major,
put him on.
I would say plot hole. It just doesn't really make sense.
I mean, I could see 911 being like 5 seconds, please. I do think they are supposed to get to you pretty quickly.
Yeah, time is of the essence here when you're calling 911. And the cell phone is trapped underneath the flipped over mattress.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
No, there's the whole business where she thinks we know where it is because we've
Right.
seen it fall when she was running to the panic room. But she
Right.
thinks it's in one place. She has to search under the mattress. She knocks down the light. They come to,
Yes.
all these sequences are perfectly calculated.
It's this thing, the Fincher said the main appeal of this movie for him was making a film where the audience could be in perfect lockstep,
Yeah.
right? Where he can direct your eye to what you need to know, place things in your memory at certain points, where anytime a scene is set up and a conflict is set up, you understand this is here relative to this. This is going to be the problem. This person does know this or doesn't know this.
Right.
Just making it all as easy to map out as possible.
Right.
Yeah.
This is the moment after the phone call where the group starts to split up.
Mm-hmm.
Whitaker is like, I don't want to do this anymore. Oh, no, sorry. It's Jared Leto who's like, I'm out. Forget it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just, and that's when he says, because this is the end of Leto.
Yes.
He's burned up.
I got a hamburger face now.
He's got a hamburger face, and he's like, forget it. I'll just collect my meager share of the inheritance. And then he says like $900,000.
Yeah.
And that's when Dwight Yoakam and Forrest Whitaker are like, wait, how much is actually in there? Because that's a lot.
Oh, he also goes, I can't go to prison, man. I'm not built for that shit.
Which, Junior,
Hey.
let me tell you.
Yep.
That's probably true.
Right. But if that's his consolation prize,
Right,
then
they're like,
suddenly the
wait a
stakes have
second.
gotten raised for them.
And then it's just an incredible moment where they're all fighting. And he's like, I'm out of here. And then Raul shoots him in the eye,
Yes.
and he is dead.
He does a full 360-degree spin
Yes.
and sprays brains all over.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so satisfying because one, it's great escalation of tension. Oh
Mhm.
God, Raul is as scary as we thought he could be.
Yeah.
Two, Jared Leto is dying in such an entertaining way.
Yes.
What a delight for me to
Yeah.
personally experience this with all my friends at the Odeon, the Hallway
Talking
Odeon.
about how much extra Jared Leto is doing in this performance, it's the kind of performance you can only get away with if you're going to die earlier in the movie than people think, right?
Yeah.
You can do this much where people are like, are you really going to fucking sustain this for 90 minutes? And it's like, no, it's more like 30.
Yeah.
And it's like 30, 45.
And I'll die exactly when everyone's just so fed up with me
Is
that it'll be
ready.
extremely, the audience will clap.
Yes.
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 Every death in this movie, him and Yoakam,
Yeah.
you're just like, yes, thank God. But and Raul, just don't bring Raul.
Raul's bad news.
We don't know anything about Rolex because he's a bus driver
Yeah,
Flatbush.
in Flatbush. He's done it hard.
he got a ski mask.
He got a ski mask and now he's got $1 million. His parents would be very proud.
He has a weapon, a firearm.
His father sat him down on his knee one day and said, all I wish for you when I migrated here to this country was that one day you'd have $1 million in a ski mask of your own.
Yes. Raul at this point. Oh no, right. And then right as they're shooting Jared Leto is when the husband shows up.
Yeah.
And he's like, what's going
Hello.
on? Knock knock. And that's when they beat the shit out of him.
Yeah.
And then they do the whole switch, right?
He's got
Nicole's going to kill me.
the broken collarbone.
Right.
And the makeup guys on the DVD said that, like, that was a big Fincher thing that he had at some point in his life. I don't know what the circumstances of
He's
this
playing right tackle for the Denver
were-
Broncos. Yeah.
was talking to someone whose collarbone had just been broken, was with them in the immediate aftermath of that. And that when they were talking on the syllables, he could see their collarbone moving up and down.
Yucky.
And it is a thing that stuck with him and haunted him for so long that he was like, I'm putting that in a movie somewhere.
Ugh.
And it's here.
Yeah, I mean, he is really yucky.
Yeah.
He doesn't just have like a black eye or whatever.
No.
He looks like half dead.
Well, he got beat up by Raul.
Raul doesn't half beat someone up, I guess.
Yes.
Raul's a bad guy.
I forget which
Yeah.
makeup team it was, which studio it was, but they basically were talking about how they had really wanted to do Fight Club. I mean, Fincher is like so much the guy at this moment
Sure.
that this movie has a lot less in terms of prosthetics.
Yeah.
But they so badly want to be in his good graces that they were just like, we're going to do everything so extreme so that we become his default guys. I don't know if it worked or not.
I mean, I don't either. You
Yeah.
find out.
Yeah. I'll
Well,
look
I
it up.
mean, Benjamin Button had some makeup.
A lot of CGI though.
Did he?
Yeah.
I thought that was all natural.
I think there's some. There's some.
There's some. Yeah.
Um,
The Kate Blanchett, actually, that's some of the best old age makeup, I think, in any movie ever.
we'll talk about
We'll
it.
talk about
So while this is all happening, you also have, and I do think it's very clever,
Mhm.
that the movie never has the really boring scene of like, don't forget to take your insulin. Like, it's just that there's just sort of mentions of like, she has her watch and
You see the fridge.
with
her
stuff in
room.
it, and you see this sort of like there's the moment where she's like, do you feel okay? Like, do you feel dizzy? You know, like she's asking her questions that feel more specific than like, I don't know, are you rattled by this?
Mhm.
But like they never actually have the thing in all these movies that you're like, okay, well then she's gonna fucking have a problem later, right? Where they're like, and don't do your homework and don't forget to take your insulin. And I'm like, okay, I'm watching a thriller. An hour into this, she's gonna go into diabetic shock.
It is like the way you would. It's more just about. It could be about a character that happens to be diabetic,
Right.
but of course, it's a thriller, so it has to. She
has to go.
run
But
out
that
of insulin.
scene is very
the
powerful.
Forrest Whitaker scene.
Well, the scene, but even the seizure scene,
Yes.
where like the shot of her toes clenching,
Yeah.
and the way that they've clearly gone through before. Ben, you don't like it?
Yeah, I don't like it. It makes me squirm.
But it's
I know.
mostly that fucking
And, like,
Kristen
Jodie-
Stewart plays this incredibly
Kristen
well.
plays it really well, but
Yeah.
Jodie saying like, "Be strong, be strong." You know, like it's like really tough to watch.
Yes.
In a very mundane way, and then the follow up where Whitaker does the right thing or whatever is also great. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Griff, you're trying to look something up.
It was ADI who did Alien 3. He didn't hire them back for Fight Club, and I think this is the last thing they do with him.
I'm so sorry.
That's all I had to say.
Okay.
I was
just
really
was
impressed with all the diabetes stuff.
Me too.
Yeah.
Just
They
with
did a
what I
million takes with Kristen Stewart. Like that is the Fincher thing. Like he did.
Sure.
He did.
She had to have that seizure for days.
I don't know about the seizure, but like he did say, like, look, he has this whole spiel about like we're gonna get her up to Jodie Foster's level by doing lots of takes,
Right.
Like she's an inexperienced actor, but like
That was the
we
thing
can
that
just get
drove
the
me
performance
crazy.
totally right.
That decade where everyone fucking
Does
wrote
the
her
right
off.
things.
Oh, she's
Oh,
just
she-
awkward. She has all these tics and everything. It's just like she clearly is like a very technically advanced actor.
Yeah.
She's doing things with intentionality.
Mhm.
You do not give this performance in this movie with this director by accident.
Mhm.
And that was the start of her career.
Absolutely was,
Yeah.
right? What's it? Catch That Kid? When's that?
That's after this.
Right?
This
It
was
is,
her
right?
second film. I don't
Right,
know
she'd
what
been
was
in
first.
The Safety of Objects before
Right.
that.
No, but
Back
Catch
then,
That
you
Kid-
could release a movie called The Safety of Objects. Catch That Kid is a year. She's also in Cold Creek Manor the year after
Right.
this, the Mike Figgis
Yes.
thriller.
Quaid and Stone.
Quadenstone.
Quadenstone.
Sounds like some like town in Maine I'm moving to.
Right.
And she's also in Undertow. Shout out Jamie Bell.
Oh yeah, a very
David Gordon Green.
brief performance in
Mhm.
it, but she's good in it. I love that movie.
Good movie. And then Zathura.
Yeah.
Yeah, she never stopped working. She worked
No.
consistently all the way to Twilight, and then
Yes.
Twilight is the breakout.
Yeah.
She's such a good actor. Do you like Keith Stew?
One of my favorites.
Oh, personal shopper, man.
That's an
Yeah.
amazing
One of
movie.
the fucking best.
It really is.
I love her.
I think it's the Nighthawk Theater now has been using one of the text exchange with a quote unquote ghost scenes in Personal Shopper as their turn off your cell phones pre-movie announcement.
Right.
So I just keep on seeing that scene over and over again.
Great scene.
Oh.
That's wordless. That's just her texting, getting freaked out, and turning her phone off and putting it away. And I'm just like, man, she can fucking like. There are few people who have that sort of technical precision.
Right. They would not be able to handle, whatever.
She can just exist on screen. This was the
biting your
whole
lip. while-
fucking.
yeah.
If I can just say it for 5 seconds.
You said it a bunch on our Twilight.
I know I did, but that
episodes.
was paywalled.
That's true.
When people were like, she's just uncomfortable. She's just uncomfortable and
Right.
awkward. I'm like, that's not what it
She's
looks like
playing
when
that.
someone's uncomfortable on camera. That's how someone plays being awkward,
Right.
which she had a better physical vocabulary for doing than almost anyone in the history of
She was
movies.
so good at it that people thought she was actually uncomfortable.
Correct.
But she was just giving a take to Bella. She was like, what
Something.
give her anything.
Right. A character that's designed only to be a cipher.
Yeah.
Bella is not the deepest character on the page. I will agree with you on
And
that.
her decisions are confounding.
What do you mean? Normal. She just wants to be a vampire.
And she and Pattinson both turned out to be very interesting people.
Yes.
They sure look.
Phenomenal actors who have basically tried their hardest to keep this medium afloat.
We're so pro both
Yeah.
of them.
Yes.
And
And Jackson Rathbone. obviously the third element.
Right. The secret
The
sauce.
3 saviors of cinema.
He's the cayenne pepper on
Yes.
top.
Is he the werewolf? No, that's
He's
Taylor.
he is
Taylor Lautner was
Taylor Lautner's the werewolf. Jackson Rathbone is the sort of Twinkie vampire in the family.
There's the kind of hot vampire, and then there's Kellen Lutz, who's like the sort of big lunk.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then there's Ashley Greene, who's emo girl.
Who can read emotions.
Read emotions or something.
Yeah.
And see the
Nice.
future. I can't remember.
Perfect movies.
And is there anyone else? I guess that's the whole gang. Oh no, there's Nikki Reed, who's mean.
Yes. Her power is
Her power
judgment.
is the whole time she's like, I don't like you.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, well, sorry. At this point, everyone's moving in and out of the panic room at various times, right?
Yeah.
When does Yoakum get his hand squished? It's around when they're giving her the drugs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She throws the drugs in.
Right.
The door smashes the
Smashes his
hand.
hand.
And then it's just like, we got to communicate somehow. She's
Right.
got to let him know how to give the drugs.
And you have this around, like, Forrest Whitaker's already kind of revealed, like, he has a family.
Yes.
Right. Like, he has fatherly.
Yeah, it's custody.
Vibes.
He needs the money for
Right.
custody
This is
things.
not
That's what the junior yelled at him.
This is not a man driven by greed.
Right.
No.
He needs the money.
Yes. The fact that Dwight Yoakam is wearing rubber gloves when he gets his hand caught. So rather than just having the nastier immediate impact moment of smushed finger severed,
Right.
you instead see the gloves slowly pool up with blood and kind of like inflate.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, I'm watching it now. Ooh.
Can we do the little Dwight Yoakam sidebar?
Absolutely. Dwighty Dwight.
Like,
what do you want to say about him?
Fascinating actor.
He's he's a good actor, I think.
I think he's a very good actor.
I actually don't know his music that well.
I don't either.
I mean, he's a big kind of alternative country guy, right? I feel like,
But like Sling
kind of
Blade-
in like the Willie Nelson mold or whatever.
Sling
So
Blade
good
has this. He's incredible in Sling
so
Blade.
scary.
And
Yeah.
it has this incredibly eclectic cast
Right.
that is clearly just people Billy Bob Thornton likes, right?
Mhm.
And you're like,
And who he thinks will have authentic
Verisimilitude.
vibes.
Yes.
Exactly. Right.
and it's just like, who the fuck is this guy? You're telling me this is not his main thing, that this is like him giving this performance kind of on a lark
Right.
as a favor to a friend? And then I feel like he semi-selectively does stuff. He
was in the Newton Boys
Yes.
as one of the Newton Boys.
He's obviously in Logan Lucky.
Well, sure. You're jumping ahead.
Wait, okay, then take me
What
through
else
order,
did he
David.
do? He's in that movie The Minus Man, which I've never seen. The Owen Wilson
Serial killer. movie
scary movie.
that has one of the best trailers of all time.
Does it? Ooh,
Do you not know this trailer?
don't think so.
The Minus Man has a trailer that is a couple walking out of seeing the Minus Man, going, so what did you think of the ending? And it's just them having a like before sunrise walk through New York City,
Okay.
talking about the
like how
movie.
crazy it is. Oh, that's kind of clever.
And it's like time lapse, like as they walk through the park and drops
Right.
her off her doorstep. And she's like, don't you have to be at work? And he's like, it'll be fine. And then it cuts to a drowned person in a swimming pool with no lifeguard there.
right.
And that is the trailer. It has no scenes from the movie.
Whoa.
And it just says like the Minus Man, you won't stop talking about it. It's one of the greatest film trailers in history.
That's cool.
Yeah. Anyway, no one talks about that movie.
No one does.
No.
But I now kind of want to watch it. After Panic Room, he did help investigate a little Hollywood homicide.
Okay.
Apparently, he's in Wedding Crashers.
Well, this is the thing.
I don't remember that.
Vince Vaughn, I believe the opening scene of Wedding Crashers is them negotiating his divorce because they're divorce
Oh, yeah,
lawyers.
they're like mediators.
Right.
That's what they are.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
But Vince Vaughn's run of basically trying to make his own Happy Madison, Dwight Yoakam becomes like his guy who he
His
always has
Rob
pop up in the
Schneider?
movies. Yes. So he's also in Four Christmases. I think he plays a
Weird.
priest.
Yes, he's also in that's the only other big movie in here. I mean, he's in Crank. He's in
Mhm.
like Three Burials of Melquiades Estrada, which is a good movie.
He's very good in that.
He might be just a cool hang.
Oh,
Too.
he's in both Cranks.
I think
Crank
he's
and Crank
a
High
cool
Voltage.
hang, and it
Yeah.
is a lot of auteur directors who bring him in.
Now he is really fun in Logan Lucky because he's the guy who's negotiating with the
Yes.
prisoners over
Game of
like the Game of
Thrones.
Thrones book,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But then he has not acted, and then he showed up in Cry Macho, and it was
Right.
one of those classic like, Clint, could you have given this guy one extra take to just kind of
loosen
warm up
up.
the engine.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's not bad.
We're done.
It feels like Dwight Yoakam asked a PA for a cup of coffee. Clint said, "Let's roll." He said, "Can we wait for the coffee?" He goes, "No.
I need my turkey sub. Yeah. It's lunchtime, 9:30 in the morning." What about it's like Clint's done by lunch, and by the way, he eats lunch at 10 a.m.
And his lunch is breakfast.
I've been up since 4.
Yeah.
I did 7 push-ups.
All of my movies are shot at dusk.
We're done here.
Have you seen Cry Macho, Eva?
No.
It feels like a
What a
movie
film.
you would be a little obsessed with.
Okay.
It's so good.
I highly recommend
Cry
it.
Macho. It's a funny name.
It's
Yes.
just a funny name.
Cry Macho.
It's about him trying to escort a boy and his rooster back to his father.
Okay.
Right.
But David described it as a movie where the greatest tension in every scene is will Clint be able to make it through without taking a nap?
You really are just him walking across a room is just a little stressful.
There's a scene in which he has the mule is the one where he has multiple threesomes.
The mule has the threesomes.
There is a scene in Cry Macho where you think a woman is trying to seduce him,
right,
and he's sitting on a couch, and you are
you're like,
genuinely
give this guy coronary.
you are worried he is going to fall between the cracks of the cushion
All right, I'll watch this.
like a fucking TV
Because
remote.
the thing about Cry Macho is it's a fucking 50-year-old script.
Yes.
It's not written for a 90-year-old man.
No, he wanted to do it when he was like 50 playing 40.
Yeah.
That's so
and instead he
funny.
made it when he was 90.
Hey, listen up, kid. Anyway, good movie. No, a totally solid movie.
He's got that one monologue where he breaks down when the kid is sleeping. That's unbelievable.
I think it's it's not one of his better movies, but like it's like
No.
a pretty decent movie.
Yeah.
Considering it was directed by someone.
Also,
who,
a lot of like
falls asleep
double
at 10 a.m.
entendre jokes about the rooster.
Oh.
Yes.
Why are all these kids obsessed with their cocks? And you're like, do you need a lozenge?
He does need a lozenge. Have you seen The Mule? Like, have you seen any of the
I
Clints?
haven't watched recent Clint.
I would check out The Mule. The
Okay.
Mule is really good.
David loves the mule.
And is kind of more demented.
Yeah.
Like,
and Sully's
yeah.
obviously the best American
Sully's
film of the
amazing.
2010s.
Right. But he's not
Yeah.
in that one.
No.
He
Okay.
should be in it, though.
You feel him, though.
You feel. Oh yeah, you feel.
I'd say he sort of plays the role of God in that film, saving 166 souls.
100%.
Okay.
Okay. Panic
watch it.
Room. All right. So, okay. They
167.
smush
Did I fuck that up?
Yoakam,
Go on.
who is amazing in this movie, by the way. Dwight Yoakam.
Phenomenal.
He's great.
And
Yeah.
it is the kind of like sort of whatever, like surprise casting.
And
Where
that
you're like,
guy,
I can think of 1,000 guys I would cast before this guy, and
Yes.
you were right to cast this guy.
that guy without being overexposed at this moment, that when he shows up in the ski mask, if you weren't paying attention in the opening credits, which we should just briefly shout out, opening credits that everyone has ripped off.
The
since
most
this movie.
famous opening, the most famous thing about this movie is the opening
They're
credits.
Yes.
so good.
They're
Yes.
very cool. The best thing about them is that you can see the other ones.
That's my favorite fucking part.
Like that you're looking at, but you can already see the next credit is floating near another
Oh, I
building,
didn't know
right?
that.
There's like an inner Fincher logic where when it says like whatever it is, a blank production, a Pallone production, you can see the corner of Jodie Foster's name 5 blocks away.
In the distance.
Yeah, where you're
Very
like, these
cool.
are all just there.
The credits have always been here.
Yes.
They're just hanging. Like then people should be able to drive around New York and be like, "There's Jodie Foster's
Right.
name.
You should do, there should be a,
Dwight Yoakam.
a Panic Room
Dwight
credits
Yoakam's
bus
hanging over
tour.
Madison and like 33rd.
yeah, it's become a very hip neighborhood.
right.
The Yoakam district.
I feel like in both this and Sling Blade, the thing that works is that Yoakam is playing a realistic sadist.
Yeah.
Right.
Like one you would actually encounter in life. And
Right,
not a fun movie sadist.
Yes.
He's enjoying things, but only in context. And it seems like he's a real type of guy.
There is something unnervingly kind of blank about Dwight Yoakam. And I think it is that weird, like, inscrutable cowboy western thing where
Yeah,
it's
he's
just sort of
kinda
like, this guy doesn't say much and he looks off at the plains and whatever, you know? And then when you project onto that, everyone pointing at him and being like, this guy's fucking crazy, he becomes terrifying.
But
Yeah.
in this movie, he's kind of a mundane psycho.
That's
like,
the thing.
He's not even like in it to torture people. I don't know. He's just not nice.
Like he kills Jared Leto because it's time.
Yeah, it's kind
Yeah.
of time for him to die, and he's annoying.
And they just want the money and
Yeah.
they're going to get it now.
Right.
But he doesn't like savage Jared. He shoots him a couple times.
Right.
And then like, he's really now. So in between him getting his finger smushed and the sort of final showdown is the arrival of Paul Scholes.
Mhm.
And isn't that Mel Rodriguez? Who's the other cop?
Oh, I think you're right. Yeah.
That's a great scene.
That scene is so good.
Mhm.
Where Paul Scholes is like, basically like, I don't buy that this woman's insane story. Like something's definitely going on here.
Heschel's performance is great.
Yes. Yeah, Mel Rodriguez is the other cop.
I love Mel Rodriguez.
Me too.
A true when's he bad. Is there any performance he hasn't?
No, he's a really reliable actor.
Actually elevated from what was given to him.
I forgot to shout out. There's the scene where they, blink the lights, Morse code out the window
and
to
annoy
the neighbor. The neighbor does what I would do. Forky and I agreed. We were both through this. Close blinds. Like if I'm in New York City and someone's flashing I'm like, what is this fucking light party over here? Or I'm going to sleep.
I don't know if I've ever told this before on the podcast. There's a night, like 10 years ago, different apartment, different neighborhood, where I heard what sounded like a very intense domestic incident between a couple in the building next to mine.
Right.
And she was literally yelling, "You're going to kill me." And I called 911, and they were so annoyed that I didn't have more information for them. Like, they were hostile.
Ugh.
And when they came and I met them outside, they were like, "So what are we supposed to go off of here?"
Yeah, cops are annoying.
Yeah.
So, sorry to say this.
Yeah.
But,
but it was
really
like, I'm like trying to be a good Samaritan. And they're like, "So what? We're supposed to just go in the building and knock on every door?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I heard a woman yelling she was going to die." I don't think anyone died.
Andrew Kevin Walker, the writer of Seven, plays the sleepy neighbor.
That's fun.
That's nice.
And closes the blinds.
Sure.
Anyway.
Wait, he just wrote something new. What
he did.
What did he
Fuck.
just write?
No, I don't know.
No.
Yeah, something that just came out.
A great tweet.
Something coming out.
He wrote a great tweet.
Something I was excited about that
he
I
wrote
found.
The Killer. He wrote the new
the new
movie.
Fincher coming out.
Yeah, I just reading that book right now, and I was excited, and then I was like,
He wrote that movie Windfall.
What's
no,
that?
he didn't. No, he did. The one, it came out last year. It was the new Charlie McDowell movie with Jason Segel and Lily Collins.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
That like no one saw because it was like one of those Netflix was just
filmed
like
on at Jason Segel's house.
Was it really?
Yeah, The Killer is a really good, scary graphic novel.
Hell yeah.
It's going to be it's a really cool thing to adapt.
I'm excited for that. Oh, he wrote the Bad Robot, Love, Death, and Robots episode that Weiger loves so much too.
Okay.
That Fincher directed.
All right.
He was just telling us to watch that last night. Yeah.
Sorry.
Hey, Eva, never apologize.
Okay.
Never apologize.
I won't apologize.
Never.
Even if, you're in a panic room. No. What do you make of the scene with Scholes, though? Like, do you think she signals anything to him and that's why he's there at the end? Or is he just kind of like, this is too fishy? She doesn't do the blinky thing.
No. I think it's too fishy.
It's too fishy.
Yeah.
But
I think it's something didn't line up. Yeah.
She very clearly, she does her best to send them away.
She does her best
You're
to send
watching
them
her
away.
capital A acting as her character. What if her character, who's not a good actor, had to act?
There's no Jodie Foster.
And she has to do this whole thing. I'm like, well, what I was trying to say on that phone call was, I wanted to have sex with him.
Yeah, what are the three things?
The three things?
She says
there are three.
She
there
gets cut off
there
right
are
at
three,
the number
right,
three.
right.
If you come
Three
over here, I'll do
things.
three things.
Right. Kiss. Hug.
Love.
And rub.
Kiss forehead.
Kiss forehead.
Kiss forehead. Hug shoulders.
Eskimo kiss.
And shake hands.
It's all just different types of kisses. Yeah.
Fist bump.
Three things I want to do. Play Mario Kart. Play Mario Tennis.
Yeah.
Play Mario Party. She's got an N64. She can do them all.
That's what it would be. Should have a game system in the panic room.
That's the big
a Super
Not just
Nintendo
Fireball,
where you're just
yes.
like, you know what? I'm really going to dig into like Zelda right now.
Right.
What if then you could turn all the screens that are usually watching bad guys into just a party, playing games?
Or
think it's a really-
watch DreamWorks, the bad guys.
Well, that's
crowd-pleasing
It's
hit.
not out yet. In 2002.
You could turn all your TVs into
I'm just
TVs like
pointing it out.
Elvis.
Yeah, sure. It'd be a minor plot hole if she had a copy of a movie from 20 years later.
People might have
Might be a logic bump.
Yeah, exactly. Or what if they were like, we're finally making a full version of the movie that Jodie Foster watched in Panic Room.
Yeah.
That's what the bad guys was.
Sure. It would be funny if it was like, it's this old man's Panic Room. Also his VHS collection. It's like Exodus.
Right. It's really boring. Brigadoon.
Right.
It's kind of boring movies.
1776.
Debbie Does Dallas.
Right. Oh,
Oh, dear.
Yeah, they find his dirty.
Yeah,
tapes.
right. It's underneath the main videos, right? There's a secret. There's a panic room for the porn.
Yeah. A bunch of National Geographic.
And when you reach in for it, it cuts off your fingers.
All right. So at this point, I guess what's happening is she's downstairs. The burglars are in the panic room with recovering Kristen Stewart. Forrest is drilling into the safe.
Yes.
He finds the bonds.
This isn't the
$22
pillow
million.
drill moment, is it?
The what moment?
There's the moment where they use the pillow to insulate the drill. I guess that's when they're trying to get into the room.
That's
right?
earlier. Because then later he's right. When he drills, he just drills.
He just full on does a safe crack.
Yeah.
Right. There's that great, very Finchery shot of the like zoomed in lock where you watch him like tick every chamber to the right. Right? Like that's very Finchery.
Yeah. I just love the image of holding the pillow up between the wall and the drill and the feathers just flying everywhere.
No, because that's earlier, because that's how he shows you the airflow coming in with the feathers going out of
There's
the
that
vent.
stuff I love where you have like inanimate objects behave almost like objects in a Tom and Jerry cartoon.
Right.
It's the same thing with the propane tank, the way it's sort of spinning around.
That's scary.
Yeah.
At this point, once they get the bonds, they could just go, right? Like everyone we all shake hands and just split.
Right, because and now I'm trying to remember the timing of the tapes. But at that point, he knows there's no tapes. But I guess Raul is just like, they can't live. They've seen my face.
Yeah.
Like,
Right,
that's what
that's
he's
the
very
big-
focused
The problem
on.
is Raul.
The problem is Raul.
Because if everyone was just being like Forrest Whitaker, who has his name tag on his jumpsuit, his real name.
Well, he's an honorable man.
Yeah, this was the big question you wanted to call to.
Why did he wear his jumpsuit with the name tag if he was breaking into a house?
Yeah.
Well, he thought no one was going to be there, and he wanted to wear his special jumpsuit.
Nevertheless.
Yeah, he was going to just drop off a business card on the way out.
It's like buy a new pair of coveralls. Don't wear the ones
Get
with
some
your
crime
last name
coveralls.
on.
Yeah.
You're about to become a millionaire.
Why wear a
whatever.
mask if you're also going to wear your name tag? I don't know.
He also has his full birth certificate tattooed on his back.
He does. He
Yeah.
does. Right. And he does leave a copy,
He takes a photo.
He tells Kristen
Like
Stewart his
manslaughter.
social security number on the way out.
Well, no, just in case they need it.
Yeah.
No, look, the big moment that you're just looking forward to, I feel like, is you're like, how is Raul going to get it?
Right.
Yes.
And the sort of complex physical arrangement that leads to Raul is holding Kristen Stewart hostage. Patrick Pacal, the dad is like sitting in his like chair gun pose where he's sort of like he's so fucked up.
Yeah.
But he's trying to just kind of like, come on, I can get you. And Forrest Whitaker is basically trying to be like, just let her go. Let's get out of here. And then you see Jodie Foster come out of the elevator with the hammer.
Yeah.
And Kristen Stewart spots her right and she's like, go down. And she just fucking hammered to the
it's a
face.
sledgehammer.
Yeah.
Sledgehammer. Yeah.
And it's the most
Peter Gallagher
satisfying
shit.
hammer to the face.
Gallagher.
And
I
then he goes-
combined Peter Gabriel and Gallagher.
But he's still alive.
2 sledgehammers, and I ended up with the guy who's got 2 fucking sledgehammers over his eyeballs. But
does.
yeah.
But he goes over the railing and
Yes.
down a flight of stairs. Like it's a nasty fall.
So satisfying.
Yeah.
What if I told you there's a movie where you just will stand up and cheer when Dwight Yoakam gets a sledgehammer to the face?
I mean, Eva, you brought up Buscemi and Fargo, right? But I'm realizing how much wisely it does feel like they're sort of using the model of Buscemi and Stonemaier in Fargo.
Oh, yeah.
Where you're like, here's the funny guy, right? He's
Yeah.
scary, but he's funny. And here's the kind of like inscrutable guy next to him. That guy, the funny guy, is going to get plucked off, and you're going to realize that the other guy is genuinely like horrifying.
Yeah.
And you need the cathartic, takedown.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He is still alive, as you pointed out. He does have to have one more final, oh God, we thought we got him, but he's back.
Yeah.
Because that's when Whitaker's run away, and Whitaker has the moment of conscience to return.
Kristen Stewart also stabs him with all the insulin.
She does. She just
She just porcupines him with insulin.
which is a great move.
She's holding. I'm
She's
looking
holding
at-
3 syringes
Yes.
in her hand.
She should have Wolverined it. She should have put him in between.
Do this.
The knuckles.
Do like a
Yeah,
That's
berserker mode.
how they tell women to walk down the street in New York
Yes,
With
with,
your
with
keys.
all their insulin between their
Yes.
fingers. So if someone walks up, you just go.
Yeah. She should have put. This is what I think she should have done. I think this would have fit in the reality of the movie.
Right after she watches the bad guys.
3 syringes. She should watch the bad guys and go, it's not bad.
C+.
What
What
did
if
some
you got a
interesting
movie
things.
from 20 years in the future and it was just like, all right.
It's okay.
This is where we're headed.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is sort of like at the top,
It's
like
kind of pretty
top
good.
third of
This
things
is,
getting released by major
didn't
studios.
get an Oscar nomination. It was probably the first one dropped.
3 syringes, first one dropped. 3 syringes in between the knuckles, right?
Yeah.
And then she should go to Jodie Foster and sort of like nod her head, and Jodie Foster should go fastball special, and then she should pick up Kristen Stewart with one hand, throw her at Dwight Yoakam.
That's
and
the move.
she's like a human cannonball, but her arms are outstretched. She's flying.
Yeah.
Right.
And she lands.
And they're like speed lines behind her.
Right.
And she just goes straight into him, and bing, she's perfectly, she's like planked out.
Planked.
Yeah.
She's vibrating.
And his eyes cross.
Yes. Right. And also she hits him in the nuts.
Yeah.
We forgot to mention, of course, in my version.
And the butt.
And the butt, somehow, it's one hand under.
Yeah.
Right? She's sort of arcing around underneath the gooch. Yeah. I don't know. That's what I would have done if I had directed this, but I guess it's okay that Fincher did.
I mean, Fincher made his own choices, and I know he's embarrassed by them now, and he wishes he had done that.
He whiffed.
Yoakam is finally dispatched by Forrest Whitaker in a moment of morality, right?
And Whitaker has his eventual. Well, I'm jumping ahead of a moment, but
the killing moment.
Yes.
Standing in the breeze with that's basically next.
They're going to shoot him if he doesn't drop what he's holding, which is all the money.
All the money, and then it's just floating around him.
Yeah.
So good. I love that. I always want that.
Just
it's like it was meaningless. All of this was meaningless. You were never going to get this. It's just pieces of paper.
Away too.
Yeah.
He could have, but you know what? He was never going to. He shouldn't have done it.
No,
but if he had he could have gotten away, but he went back for Yoakam, is what you're saying, Ben.
Well, he went back to save the family.
Save the family.
He had a conscience.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Every time Ben watches a movie like this, he is convinced that he would get away with it and that it would work. And that if the movie were about him, it would end with him owning an island.
Things would have gone a lot different.
Yeah. I mean, I would have announced, I've got the stuff I need, guys. Yeah. Let's talk about it.
Right.
Everyone come out. Let's figure it out. Family
want to have a movie
meeting.
where everyone just lays their cards on the table and then they figure out how to get out of the movie with like no problems.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll leave a couple for you. You let me take the rest.
Someone will one day make a crime movie like that, where it just ends with everyone being like, guys, we can talk this out.
Yeah.
How much money do you want?
Ben Hosley joint. It'll be written, directed by Ben Hosley.
I do like in writer's room, sometimes I do an exercise where I make people be like, what would happen if at this point everyone was just like, here's everything I know.
Right.
And the other person was like, here's every single thing I know. And everyone just like sat down and said it, like what would happen?
Because it can be frustrating on TV where you're like, stop actually yelling at each other. Actually just have a conversation. You'll sort this out quickly.
You know half of one thing.
Lost, of course, the most famous example.
Oh,
of that, where anytime Jack had like Ben.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, what's going on? And Ben would be the question is, how is it going on? And I'm like, no.
No.
Let's go back to the original question. When did you get here? Who built all this stuff?
Again, and until you tell me what's going on.
How do your boats work? What is the smoke monster? Why is this place magic?
I'm not going to let you go.
Yeah.
But Ben was just always so good at being like, no.
You'll kill me.
That's not the question, Jack.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the questions.
Yes. Ben was also like, he was like a fucking panic room camera. Like he was going through air ducts and sliding in between keyholes.
God bless him.
A little weasel.
He was a great weasel.
We love Ben Liner.
I love the final decompressing ending of this movie. Them on the park bench in Central Park.
New real estate listings.
Looking at the real estate listings where they're like smaller, no panic rooms.
And it feels very much like a Hitchcocky, just like, just get out quickly.
Yes.
You don't need a whole wrap up.
I wish they pulled out though, and then on the back of the paper they're reading, it just said Forrest Whitaker dies in prison.
Something like that.
Yeah. Forrest Whitaker's character dies in prison.
Family cheers as it learns of idiot grandson's death.
Yeah.
Like in a picture of Jared Leto.
Yeah.
I was like, are they going to go to the court and be like, hey, he did save us? Or give him a break?
He's probably going to go to jail.
If this character
or whatever, he's committed
real,
various crimes.
There would be an 8-hour Netflix documentary about him.
Right.
But then maybe she goes to, they both go and they're
maybe
like, he gave me
she's
a
like,
shot.
hey, look, he helped us out at the end.
He saved us. Maybe you give him a break.
Yeah, he saved my daughter's life. You were saying you had a take or a read on this movie and sort of what Fincher's.
Oh no, my entire take was just about Jared Leto being extra.
Okay. Oh, look, an evergreen take.
I was just like, this is the first he felt empowered,
right,
to be a little freak, but he also has vanity.
Mm-hmm.
So he always has to be beautiful, even now. Except for, I guess, this one Mark David Chapman time, and that did not go well.
No,
Yeah.
it didn't go.
It's the one time he didn't allow himself to be at least somewhat hot.
Yeah, exactly. But
Yeah.
he's still kind of hot. I don't know. I think he's an actor whose beauty will always be a great stone on his back.
Look,
But I
I
think
don't want
that's-
to speak mean about him.
You don't want to speak ill of the
Speak
Leto.
ill of him.
Yeah.
But he is not. He wants to be a movie star, and he never will be.
No.
And he wants to be a great actor, and he never will be. I'm sorry, Jared
He can
Leto.
be
He can be an
utilized
interesting addition to a film.
unbelievably well.
And
Yes.
I like him in House of Gucci. Like some people are like,
I think
fuck
that's a
off.
terrible
Right.
performance,
I
Yeah.
don't mind
And one
that.
of the only other times he hasn't been hot.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
true.
He's gone out of his way
I
to be
like
hot.
That just felt like
Pigeon.
Tom Cruise in like
Well, that's
Tropic
my
Thunder.
Tropic
problem.
Thunder.
Absolutely.
Like, isn't it so funny how I'm in a fat suit?
Yes.
Me, the most beautiful thin man. It's like, yeah, well, no,
If Tom Cruise gave the exact same performance in Tropic Thunder without the makeup, I would think it was good.
yeah.
The makeup makes it worse for me.
Wait. Here's the challenge. What is your favorite Jared Leto film performance? I say film because if it's TV, it kind of gets too easy.
It's this, I think.
Is it this?
For me,
Requiem.
He's pretty good in Requiem for a
Yeah.
Dream. He's not, to me, the standout of that movie, but he sort of
trying to
does
think if there's something I like
what is
more
needed.
than this. But I'm like, this is
He
how...
did play El Joker once. I don't know if you knew this.
I played him twice, my friend.
Well, sure. That other...
Justice
that was,
is Gray.
I had a real moment when I was watching Blade Runner, the new one,
Mhm.
and that scene when he finally shows up, and Blade Runner's already been going on a long time, and you're like, only one person in this scene has an Oscar.
Yeah.
Right,
And it's
right.
and like
it's-
Harrison Ford is here,
Yeah.
Ryan Gosling is here, everyone's here, and Leto is the one with an Oscar.
I
And I
know.
was like, that's weird.
I
That
think-
should not be happening.
I think he's fine in that movie,
Yeah.
but obviously he's sort of being used. I mean, he did play a guy with some very interesting ideas once.
The Joker?
Well, no, a doctor, but he
Michael
was,
Morbius.
yeah, he was a little outside the medical community.
Yeah. He makes night calls, this guy.
He is actually very funny in We Crashed. That is like a good
I feel
comic
like-
performance.
I feel like people were largely positive on him in that show.
he's funny.
Right?
He's just super
Yeah.
I
funny.
think he is infinitely better at comedy than he is at drama.
Right.
Which is
Even
a
if he
weird
doesn't know it.
misunderstanding. And something like Blade Runner, I'm like, don't let him take this seriously. This is what I don't want him doing.
None of us are saying the Oscar-winning performance he gave in Dallas Buyers Club. I'm just going to point out.
Remind me to tell you something after.
Great.
Absolutely.
Can't wait to hear
Can't
that.
wait to hear that.
We should wrap up the
I
episode.
don't think he's bad at Dallas Buyers
No,
Club. I just
but-
care nothing about that movie.
It felt like a very sort of
It
like
feels
showy
very-
and
It's got
annoying
a pretty good
performance.
Griffin Dunn performance, and otherwise I think it's kind
Wow,
of like
he's fucking
bleh.
great.
I think Jennifer Garner's kind of great in it, but I know that's a more controversial opinion.
I forgot she was in it. Yeah,
Leto
yeah.
has the one scene with the father that I think is incredibly good.
Uh-huh.
And the rest of the movie, I'm just like, this is just
You know
a
what? I was
lot of...
probably too
You're
busy
showing your homework.
staring at Forky. That's the only time I ever saw it.
Like I'm on a smoking date with a hot.
Apparently, I didn't go
Piece
see
of-
fucking Dallas Buyers Club in theaters enough because here I am, fucking 10 years later, unmarried. That's the key.
I guess.
Wait, is that how you met your husband as well?
No, I did go on a date once though, where a guy invited me to a double feature of M and Night of the Hunter,
Oh, wow.
and we got to the
Chill normal
movie,
movies.
and I was like, "Oh, it's funny that you picked this because of the subject matter," and he was like, "What?" And he,
come with child burner double bill.
Yeah.
yeah, he didn't know, and then we just and then we quietly walked to our cars at the end.
If he had owned it.
He didn't know. He had no
Yeah.
idea.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Poor guy. Let's play a box office game, unless there's anything else you want to say about David Fincher.
Oh, my take on Panic Room.
Mhm.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's perfectly fine.
I think it rules.
I
I think
think
it's great.
I think it's a great director showcase
Yeah.
movie, right? I think this is this moment in his career where it's like Fight Club is a huge text. As you said, it's about everything, right?
Mhm.
Seven is this kind of like perfect screenplay. And then it's like Game and this are like, this could be a just sort of standard B programmer. And I'm elevating it by like really good movie stars and impeccable craft. And I think later when he gets to what I'd call his airport paperback thriller phase, right?
Sure, Dragon Tattoo and
Gone
Gone Girl. Yeah.
I think he understands how to like deepen the text and make more there versus it just being craft.
I think this is a deep movie. I do.
Then give me some more.
Just
to read.
the thing I'm tired. We have to end the episode.
This is your job.
Is it? How long have we been going? It's 3:00.
What, the divorce
Damn it.
thing?
Yes, I just think it's a very good, like, to yes, it's a well-oiled thriller.
It's a
right?
parenthood.
It gives you exactly, but yes, like a movie about feeling completely adrift in parenting, and like the transformational experience of the crime, like, you know, and how she comes out the other side without it being like The Brave One, for example, like some kind of like dime store thrillery, like what's the high thread count thriller where it feels like a little too self-important about like, oh, you know.
Right. Flight Plan is all fluff nonsense, and Brave One is too rooted in reality, and this is sort of the midpoint between the two.
I just truly feel like their relationship, which I barely know anything about, has advanced so powerfully by the, you know, when you get that final scene.
Yeah,
but everyone's a good actor.
I agree.
I just love Jodie Foster, and she's like a person, as we're saying, it feels like this movie should have been designed for her, because it's like, this is the exact kind of thing that she can sell in a way that so few people
There is nothing about this movie that suggests what a nightmare it was to make it.
And how
it feels like a well-oiled
disjointed
machine.
and backwards its whole process was. It's like, my word for this movie is just like tight. You know?
Short too.
Yeah.
It's pretty short.
Yeah, and look, also just like a real, they don't make them like this anymore kind of movie, where you're like, this was $48 million, came out in March, it made a hair under 100.
Yep.
It was a
200
fucking
worldwide.
like TNT, like MVP movie.
Yep.
Like a classic TV remote drop, sort of what you're describing, Forky walking in the room. I'll never not want to watch Panic Room kind of feel. But done with like the highest level of craft and thought.
Sony wanted to make it a PG-13 movie, and Fincher had final cut and refused.
Wow. Okay.
But it makes sense, because Sony probably was like, this is a few cuts away from being a PG-13.
Yeah.
Like, you did bring the blood down a little bit, you cut a couple fucks, and you're there.
The daughter in the advertising, it becomes a movie that kids can go see.
Right.
Right.
And he was like, no.
Yeah. Adjust the brightness.
Fincher was really mad at how Sony marketed the movie.
Interesting.
He was basically like, don't market it on my name, you know, which is what they were kind of like from the director of Fight Club and Seven. You know what I mean? He was like, movie is made for people who go to see like Kiss the Girls and The Bone Collector. Like, I am trying to make a popcorn movie.
Interesting. Yeah.
Like, you know, don't advertise this like a prestige movie, especially in March.
Yeah.
And now the movie did well. So I don't think anyone really comes out of that looking stupid.
No.
But I sort of get what he means of like, I'm like, he has this whole thing where he keeps being like, there's movies and films, and this is a movie. You know, and like, that was his thing about Darius Kanji, where he's like, Darius Kanji makes films, you know, and I was making a movie.
Right.
But, and like, you know, I'm like, I think when I interviewed him, he said shit like that, you know, and you're kind of like, I know what you mean, but also like, at the end of the day, it's all movies, it's all films.
I just remember, like, walking out of this movie to my mom and going like, so like, Forrest Whitaker gets nominated for Best Supporting Actor, right? And her having explained to me, it's March.
It's March, like, this movie's getting ignored.
It's
like,
a year from now.
Yeah.
And I was like, doesn't it happen sometimes? It's just
maybe
like,
if it made double what it made, like if it was a phenomenon.
If it's Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
Right. But she was just like, no, it doesn't matter if people are, and I was like, well, but cinematography.
Now this movie would get Oscar nominations because there's 4 movies for adults every year.
Exactly.
So,
right.
And
the fact that it was profitable and well made.
Oh my
enough.
God, we worship the earth you walk on.
Right.
March 29th, 2002, Griffin. $30 million opening weekend.
Solid.
Ben just is sending us pictures of Jared Leto's cornrows. I'm not joking.
He's wearing wraparound sunglasses as well. It's
This
really
is a
and he's
Jared
the premiere
Leto
Shrek.
at the premiere Shrek 2001.
Makes sense.
boy.
I mean, he's shooting Panic Room.
somebody. You could just hear it behind him.
And I know when he became the Joker, he wanted his hair to be Shrek green.
Yeah, he wanted the ears.
Panic Room number 1. Number 2, Griffin.
Yeah.
Dropping from number 1.
Okay.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. It was at number 2 last week.
Oh.
It's an animated film. It's
Staying
holding well.
number 2.
It's made $116 million.
Ice Age?
Ice Age.
It was a big titted hit, and you didn't have fucking...
It was a woolly mammoth-sized hit.
There were not many blockbusters coming out in March in 2002.
Number 3.
Yeah.
A heartwarming, true story, Disney family film. New this week.
The Rookie?
The Rookie.
Yeah.
Wow.
Dennis Quaid can throw that ball.
This is just...
This is your prime. You're seeing everything in the theater.
This movie,
time.
I think The Rookie is a great movie.
Yeah, and I'll say this too. It was like... I maybe said this before. My birthday's in February, and I would often just do let's all go see a movie birthdays because that's the only thing I fucking like doing. And like February, just absolute graveyard for most of my
A
childhood.
lot of Oscar holdovers, yeah.
2002 was the year that I went, fuck it. I'm waiting until Spider-Man comes out in March. And I had my birthday party so many months later where people were confused. But it was like I was tracking every other movie coming out between February and May, being like, is anything more exciting than Spider-Man.
Yeah, May, not March. You said March.
You meant May.
Between February and May.
You said March.
Yeah, you said
Well,
March.
I'm sorry.
Well,
You
I'm
meant
just the listener.
Call me the March hare. I don't know what to tell you. I got March on the mind.
The Rookie is great. Have you seen The Rookie?
Is it with Tony Danza? No, it's not Angels in the Outfield.
That is Angels in the
Or
Outfield.
the garbage picking field goal
What is
kicking
The Rookie?
Philadelphia phenomenon.
Dennis Quaid plays a real guy who's like, when he was like in his late 30s, he had washed out of baseball many years ago, never really made it, but he was discovered. And he was like a guy who could throw a 98-mile-an-hour fastball. And they were like, that is enough for you to actually play in the major leagues.
Brian Cox is his dad who never said I love you, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
that sounds fun.
Fuck
Yeah,
off.
I remember
Go play
this-
baseball for the Rays.
I
What do
remember
I
this
care?
commercial.
You make
And
him
it's
sound like Rupert Murdoch.
well, he was playing Rupert Murdoch on television for 5
I'm
years.
sorry, yeah.
And it's got this great scene where he's testing his fastball by one of the speed radars on the highway,
Sure.
and like it's so good, and it's a really nice scene.
That was a real little shit movie for me where my whole family wanted to go see it, and I was so angry about I don't want to see a sports movie that I sat there with my arms crossed. I'm going, I don't like it.
but it's good though.
I'm sure it is.
Now you would appreciate that. It's
No,
got
I
kinda
definitely
like,
will. Absolutely.
heartwarming. All right, no, dropping from number 4.
Mhm.
Sorry, dropping from number 1 to number 4. Comic book film sequel, great film.
It's a film that David loves.
Yes.
It's a great film. It's a comic
We'll
book
do it on
film.
this podcast one day.
2002. It's Blade 2.
Blade Dos.
Blade Dos.
Ben's favorite
Blade
film of all
Fang
time.
Fang, as the poster stylized it. The numerals were fangs.
That's a good marketing idea.
Fang Fang.
Number 5, family film. You could have seen this one.
I probably did, right?
Opening to a soft $10 million
Mm.
from Jonathan Frakes, the great director of many Star Trek movies,
Clock Stoppers, which I did not see in theaters, but I had the watch.
in which they can freeze time with their
Yes.
watch.
Yeah.
Frakes got to direct a movie?
Well, he
Several.
directed 2 Star Trek movies in a row.
Okay.
First Contact and Insurrection.
Oh, okay.
And off of that, he got to make Clock Stoppers and Thunderbirds.
Right. And
Nice.
Thunderbirds was such a disaster that he has been in movie jail for 20 years. And
And
it
just
seems
makes Star Trek.
Yeah.
He makes a lot of like TV.
Yeah.
Yeah. Still beloved. I think he's the most beloved working Star Trek director. Everybody like speaks
Yeah.
so highly of him in that world.
Yeah.
But he like gets it, I think.
Sure.
Part of the thing.
They
Right?
would put gets it in quotes.
Well, I think he does. But, you know.
He gets it.
Number 6, E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Heard of it?
Back in theaters.
I saw this at
which
the
Spielberg regrets.
The walkie-talkie cut.
and
right.
also the Bubbles cut.
Yes.
Bubbles the monkey?
No,
Is he
he's
in
like
there?
they give ET a bath
Yeah.
Oh, right. That's like the added scene.
and he blows bubbles.
And he's fully CGI.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eva, you look sort of
I was just
despairing.
thinking about how I
Like-
saw this at a discount theater by USC.
hmm
And my friend and I were the only ones in the theater at 9 a.m. And some really old ladies came in and watched for a while, and it was that scene.
Yeah.
And then they turned to us and yelled, "Is this Monsters Ball?"
And you were like, yes.
To be fair, if you knew the title and nothing else, you wouldn't
Balloons
be wrong
are
saying
ball-shaped.
this monster's having a ball. Splish splash.
It was great.
Beautiful Mind is still hanging out.
Huge.
We Were Soldiers is still hanging out.
Uh-huh.
Eddie Murphy flop Showtime is
Yeah.
still hanging out with
Yeah.
Robert De Niro.
A movie that AV Club referred to, I think about this line all the time. A matchup made in R-rated comedy heaven. Unfortunately, this movie is PG-13.
Oh no.
Good call. Right.
But
That's
I
the
was like,
problem.
right, you've nailed it. It should be De Niro and Eddie Murphy cursing at each other.
Right.
For
It should
2
be
hours.
48 Hours meets Midnight Run.
Yes.
And instead it's like,
It should
hey,
be
you
very
jerk.
violent. They should not stop calling each other slurs.
But also opening this week, a
Yeah.
huge bomb that we may well cover on this podcast one day.
Mhm.
Death to Smoochie.
Yeah, I think
Danny
we should.
DeVito's
Oh.
Death to Smoochie.
Danny
Right?
DeVito short series for a little man, as Sarah Rubin pitched it.
I think we could get him in too.
You think we could get him in studio?
He does press.
Sure. Let's have him guest on something else. Does he like Zodiac?
You have to make sure he has limoncello.
Oh,
Oh, get him real
That
fucked
and a
up.
Jersey Mike's sub.
Okay.
there,
We'll
there
ask
are-
him what he thinks of Scalia. What?
there are a few people I would like to get drunk with more than Danny DeVito. It's not like
Probably
that's
would be
fun.
really fun.
the number one guy I'd like if you could have dinner with any person, living or dead. But if it's
You wanna get
specifically like,
shit-faced.
who do you want to get drunk with?
Well, you love Taxi too. You'd want
Oh.
some stories.
Louis De Palma.
Hmm?
Are you a Taxi fan?
I am no.
Okay.
Do you like the mode of transportation?
I do. I
You
took
like
one last night.
Hey, hailed
Airport.
Okay.
Sure.
No, still
Walked
counts.
in.
Still counts. Yeah. What were you gonna say? Sorry.
I love Danny DeVito.
He's incredible. I highly recommend giving Taxi a spin around the block.
My mom met him at that time and said he was a beautiful man and like very, very beautiful in person. He had beautiful eyes.
Look, it is that thing of like any working character actor who is quote unquote funny looking,
attractive.
If you see them in person, you're like,
striking.
Well, right, they belong on screen for a reason.
They're wildly attractive.
Even if they are unconventionally attractive, there is an undeniable magnetic quality. Yeah. He's kind of hot in Taxi.
Me?
Louis De Palma.
Who's the hottest? Hirsch? Danza, I guess, is very
the
cute.
hunk, right?
We're talking only the guy, because obviously my answer is Carol Kane.
Mm-hmm. You know, she's on Star Trek now.
Really? Playing what?
She's the new character on Strange New Worlds.
She's playing
She's like
Laka's
the new
wife
engineer.
from
Yeah,
Taxi?
yes. She's doing a voice.
Yeah.
She's doing like a weird accent.
I do love the theme from Taxi.
It's the best.
I walked down the aisle to it.
Do you really?
Yeah.
And you're not a Taxi fan?
Well, it's just it's a Bob James song, Angela.
Yes.
It's just a great song.
Do you know the story behind that?
No.
Wait, we got to stop the
He
podcast.
wrote a theme song that was more upbeat. And then in episode 2, there was a sad scene, and they asked him to write an instrumental track for that.
And that became it.
And he was like,
Fincher
"That's the
series is
fucking
gonna be
theme
so
song."
long.
Oh,
Yeah, it is, baby. Much like Fincher movie, it's all the special features.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Ben,
guys.
Ben is so heavy lidded. Not your fault.
Ben took a big swing on a bit.
And it didn't work.
I like the bit.
But now it's in bit heaven, Ben. Like, we'll talk about it all the time.
We will talk
It's
about it all
one
the
of our most famous flop bits.
I think you can cut it down, but I think you have to leave the remnants in, because it's now like it matches the aborted footage from Panic Room. It matches the stop and start.
It's like
production of
it's
the
the
movie.
Nicole Kidman
Yes,
scenes.
it's the sweater scenes.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the sweater scenes.
Yeah, we'll keep it all in. It's going to be great. People are going to love it.
They're going to love it.
Let's just do the credits.
Eva, anything you want to plug?
I'm on strike right now. The Entertainment Community Fund is giving money to people who got put out of work by the Writers Guild strike. The crew members, not Writers Guild. So please donate there if you want to help out the strike.
Incredible plug.
Yep.
David, anything you want to plug?
I have to go pick up my mom. Going to see Sweeney Todd tonight.
So
I'm
you're
going
not
tomorrow.
standing in solidarity with the Writers Guild, it sounds like.
I've already seen it. Not
Yeah.
to brag.
can't
No, I'm
wait.
taking my wife.
Who did you see it with the first time?
Joey.
Your brother.
See, Joey gets the free tickets.
Yeah.
So sometimes he'll be like, "You want a ticket to Sweeney Todd?" And I'm like, "That's going to be the best seat in the house because he gets the press
But
tickets."
does he say it like that?
Huh?
Does he say it like that?
Do you want to go see Sweeney Todd? Or he says
No.
attend the tale of Sweeney.
Sweeney.
Todd? Sweeney.
Right.
Sweeney.
I
He just calls me up and I'm like, "Hey Joey, what's up?" Sweeney.
Yeah.
Come on, you bleeders.
Eva, thank you for being here.
Thank
It
you
was
guys so much for having me.
so exciting and convenient that we like threw you a text and we're like, any chance you have any plans to be in New York City? And it was like,
And
yes.
here you
in
are.
5 days.
And we've met.
Yay.
Yay.
No, I'm so delighted.
Okay, good.
You're the best.
You're the best.
Hey. Watch You're the Worst on Hulu.
No, that's true.
Thank you all for listening. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Thank you to Marie Barty for our social media and helping to produce the show. Thank you to JJ Birch for our research. What school did he graduate from? He never brings this up.
Madison.
AJ McKeon, Alex Barron for our editing, Lee Montgomery, The Great American Novel for our theme song, Joe Bowen and Pat Reynolds for our artwork. You can go to blankcheckpod.com for some real nerdy shit, including links to our Patreon Blank Check special features where we do commentaries on film series like the Bond movies. We're doing the Brosnan Bonds right now, and we'll have done a Fincher music video episode recently. David is
Or it's coming
actively
up.
texting. He's closed the laptop, which is rare, but something very interesting is happening on his
The
phone.
Weeknd just got added to the Academy. I don't know how you feel about that.
Anyone else?
David Zaslav. I mean, they're really bringing all the
They
big guys.
added Zaz?
He's the fucking head of Warner Brothers.
I fucking hate that.
What do you want from them?
Not that. I want
Zaslav.
anything but that. I want him kicked
He's
out.
about to get fired, and then he'll just be a
Maybe
guy
then they'll
who
kick
can-
him out. What if they kick you out? You got fired? Boink.
Yeah.
They added the Weekend.
Yeah, why not?
These fucking picks.
They're out of ideas.
They added
guys.
Che Diaz. It's just the HBO Max lineup.
JDS.
And just like that. Look, this episode's dropping. We're about to do a Fincher music videos episode. on
Okay,
Patreon.
so then it's happening coming soon. Tune in next week for Zodiac. And as always, Eva's phone case is David Zaslav. It genuinely is.